After taking the blessings of Mata Saraswati and reminding ourselves of the ICAI motto, let us start the day with ESG.
But what is ESG?
Let me help you with this, Shivangi. ESG refers to environmental, social, and governance factors, which provide a framework to assess the sustainability of an organization's activities.
All right. I see being a chartered accountant and having studied different dimensions that relate to a business, can we participate in this aspect of business somehow?
Maybe we could. But to have a better and crystalline discussion, let us start the first technical session of the day. ESG and sustainability reporting, the role of CAs. So without taking much time, let me first call on the stage the moderator for the first technical session of the conference, CA Nikhil Totuka sir. He is a partner in Expert Consulting LLP of Chair Amrit Group. He heads the Management Consultancy Division and Tax Advisory Wing of the firm.
And now I call upon the stage the eminent members of our panel for the first technical session. I first invite CA Vijay Kumar Agarwal sir to please take the dais. Mr. Agarwal is a member of the Management Committee of Jaipur branch of ICAI.
We welcome you, sir. I now invite CA Hemant Gupta sir to please join us on this stage. Mr. Gupta, an IIM Calcutta and IIT Madras alumnus, is the Managing Director of BRT SIF, a foundation set up by BSE Institute Limited.
And I now invite CA Satyanarayan Bansal sir, who has been kind enough to fly from Singapore to join us on the stage. Mr. Bansal is the founder of Blue Ashwa Capital, an investment firm based in Singapore and India.
We are honored to have you, sir, on this stage. I now request CA Sanjay Agarwal sir and CA Akshay Gupta sir to present a bouquet and memento to CA Satyanarayan Bansal sir.
I also request CA Arihan Jain sir, Chairman Ajmer branch of ICAI, and CA Anshul Heda sir, Secretary Ajmer branch of ICAI, to please present bouquet and memento to CA Hemant Gupta sir. Please give them a big round of applause.
I now request CA Dharmendra Shekhar sir and CA Ajay Lohia sir to present a bouquet and memento to CA Vijay Kumar Agarwal sir.
I also request CA Kapil Sharma sir and CA Kapil Gupta sir to present bouquet and memento to CA Nikhil Totuka sir. Can we have applauses all the time, please? We'd like to mention it again that we're live on YouTube in the page of Jaipur branch of ICAI.
A big round of applause. Now, we would like to hand over the stage to the session moderator. Over to you, CA Nikhil, sir.
Thank you, Manas. Good morning, all. So, the first session for today is a very unique and I would say the upcoming field, and rather a survival field for all of us, not just as professional or business, but as mankind. So ESG and sustainability reporting, and we could not have asked for a better panel. We have a variety of speakers and panelists on the board. We have Hemant sir, who heads the Social Stock Exchange of India. We have Satya sir, who practices in the field of ESG globally and helps corporates, business houses to improve their ESG footprint. And we have Vijay Kumar sir, being a professional who is responsible to ensure that the ESG reporting done by various companies, various corporates, they are aligned to the legal requirements. So with this, we will like to start the session. And first, I would like to start with Vijay sir. Sir, and I would like to keep the session both in English and in Hindi for the betterment of our audience. So Vijay sir, ESG, sustainability, ये सारा discussion, topic, बड़ा लगता भी है, सब कुछ है भी. Brief के अंदर, if you can explain what exactly is ESG?
Thank you, Nikhil ji. First of all, I am thankful to the organizer of this conference for providing me this opportunity to share my views on this topic. Friends, ESG, जैसे ही हम नाम सुनते हैं, it looks like it's a new field. But ESG काफ़ी पुराना है और इसमें शुरू में केवल इसका नाम चेंज हुआ है. There are 3 pillars of ESG: environmental, social, and governance. These 3 pillars contain the ESG, and basically it is nothing else. It is just a reporting requirement which is prescribed by the SEBI. ESG, like you know, these 3 pillars already are there in the reporting. E means environmental. Like you have heard about the climate change, there are so many companies which we are expecting that the companies should take the responsibility that climate, weather, environment should not be violated. So, like you have heard about the NTPC case, the government, the universe expecting from the business houses that we should follow the environment policy. We should take care of the environment, climate, like waste management. All these things are covered under the environment pillar. Next one is the social. So, like the labor policies, like the employee, how to deal with the employee, safety measures with the employee, all these things are covered in the social. So, आपको ये सुनने के बाद पता लगेगा ये सब चीज़ें पुरानी पहले हमारी ऑलरेडी रिपोर्टिंग्स थी जो है, बस इनका नाम चेंज करके हमने ESG कर दिया इसको जो है. एंड G मीन्स गवर्नेंस. It was also there in the form of corporate governance, but now the area has been expanded from the corporate governance to governance, and it includes the middle level management also. What should be the board policy, what should be the management decision making power, what will be the involvement of the shareholder. So the ESG is basically the government planning is how the business houses is responsible to this universe, to the society, to the employees, to the stakeholders, shareholders, investors. So nowadays, investor and shareholder, all are taking the bond that we should deal with the company, we should collaborate with the company only who has the ESG compliances. This is what ESG. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Vijay sir, for setting up the pace for further discussion. I would like to discuss with Hemant sir. Hemant sir, you have a very vast experience in the field of CSR as well, right? So when we talk about ESG, अभी जैसा विजय सर ने भी समझाया कि एनवायरनमेंट, सोशल, इन चीज़ों के बारे में डिस्कशन है. कहीं ना कहीं पिछले 8 साल में, 10 साल में, since Companies Act 2013 came into play, CSR was made compulsory for companies. Everybody, especially all the chartered accountants, they are very well versed for CSR. So what is the interplay between CSR and ESG? क्या ये एक ही चीज़ है? Is ESG an extension of CSR, or how do you differentiate between these two?
Hello. Yeah. So it's a very good question, Nikhil, and it is a source of confusion oftentimes, CSR versus ESG. To my mind, there is काफी overlap है इन दो areas में, but broadly, CSR is a company's social responsibility. ESG is how you conduct your business. That is the key difference, right? तो ESG में आपके जो internal processes है, आपकी जो governance है, like विजय कुमार जी said, आप वो जो आपके internal processes है, वो solid हैं कि नहीं, वो sustainable हैं कि नहीं, वो ESG define करता है. CSR define करता है कि आप as an organization, आप society की तरफ, are you being responsible to society? So as an example, अगर आपने एक plant setup किया है, उसकी वजह से कुछ लोग displace हुए हैं, are you being responsible towards their betterment? कि उनको जो नई जगह मिली है रहने के लिए, उनको काम करने के लिए आप, are you providing avenues, right? So corporate social responsibility is about an organization being responsible to the society in which they operate. ESG is more about, as an organization internally, are you working in a sustainable fashion, is what I would.
It's very, very well put, sir. And that brings me to Satya, sir. Sir, you have been practicing in the field of ESG for a very long time, right? And right now, as Hemant sir said, that ESG is more about whether the organization itself is working in a sustainable manner. It is the parameter or a barometer to assess that, right? How do you feel that, you know, the concept of sustainability, which is a broader concept in itself, right? How is that working globally? Because you have such a big, vast global experience in this. What are the new innovation areas which are coming up in this area of sustainability?
Nikhil, I think there are more than one question that you asked in this. So let's first talk about the sustainability side of it. See, we all wish to build a business sustainably. Now, sustainability has got two angles. One is that is our organization or the business that we are running, is it sustainable in the long run from a stakeholder perspective? And if you expand it a bit, we need to live in harmony with the environment if we really want to make our business sustainable. Any organization which has looked at just a short-term profit for the sake of stakeholder has faced some challenges in the long run when the business model is not sustainable or business is not sustainable in a climate friendly or environmental friendly or social friendly manner. So sustainability has got multiple dynamics, but let me now confine it within the ESG construct. When we talk about ESG, the E part defines the sustainability from an environmental perspective. Now, let's simplify this jargon. See, all of us will keep hearing many terms: sustainable, green, ESG, impact, climate change, net zero. I mean, there will be at least 15, 20 such terms which are all coming around. But let's simplify it in what we understand in our day-to-day context. When we are running our business or building whatever organization that we are, how conscious are we towards the larger environmental cause? It's not a question of whether we should do it or not. I think as a human being, as a society, this is our duty to protect it. Are we taking care of the water around us? Are we polluting the water? Are we recycling the water? Are we taking care of the air around us? Air pollution is now rampant everywhere you go. Look at the kind of carbon dioxide emissions that we are making it, which is making the environment hotter, and which is what is called climate change or net zero. People are talking about, let's reduce it to where we were at some point in time rather than increasing the temperature. So all these things that we talk about, how do we manage our waste, whether it's hazardous or non-hazardous? What do we do with the waste? Are we able to recycle it? Are we able to upcycle it? These are the challenges that we are all talking about. Now, you can see it in two contexts. we can see it as a challenge, which has got a cost to us, and we need to factor those costs as part of our business, or we can see this as an opportunity for us to expand our business. Now, each of these challenges can be a business in itself. So today, a significant amount of wealth can be created, and I'm talking about wealth can be created by recycling the waste that we are currently grappling with. So isn't it an opportunity rather than a challenge? I would see that way. There is a significant business can be built today by on the CO2, when we talk about carbon dioxide emission and its uses in day-to-day business context. And I can elaborate on it more about it. But I personally see that this is a big opportunity for us as an industry professional, that we should connect the dots. See, rather than seeing this as an obligation, which is costing us significant amount of money, time and capital, we should see that this is a great opportunity that we as a nation, we as an industry professional can lead it and set a benchmark for all of us to prosper together, and more importantly, can be more proactive in our engagement with our clients that we day-to-day deal with.
But sir, when we talk about the impact that a particular corporate or an organization is having on the society and everything, so there is as everything goes, there are people who are pro ESG, and then there are certain others who treat it as a conspiracy theory. So there is a concept, they say that the government is trying to push what was the responsibility of the government on the corporates, right? That there are certain areas, there are certain development, there are certain infrastructure or investments which the government had to make, or they have to maintain, or through policy they had to come up with that. And through this mechanism, they are, that was a similar halabu that had gone when CSR had come. That this kind of social responsibility is the responsibility of the government, and now the government is putting their onus on the corporate. So what is your thought on that? Is this the case, or the companies have to benefit from it? And if you can, maybe quote it with an example, that how the company or the wealth can be created out of it.
Okay, I'll possibly share a very practical context to it. See, we are all deriving our resources from the nature. Whenever we are using any resources provided by the environment, we need to be responsible and conscious towards it. Let the consumer pay for its uses, or consumer take the responsibility for what she's consuming. As an industry, as a company, if we are using water, let's take an example of water because we all can relate to it. Isn't it my responsibility that I reduce my consumption of water, and whatever water I discharge after whatever process or operations I run in a manner that it's absolutely not harmful to the environment? So when we are talking of water recycling, okay, or to an extent I may even call it upcycling of the water, I am told in the state of Rajasthan there is no groundwater available for the industry. Most of the districts that I am aware of, they have already been declared, I don't know what they call it, red zone or yellow zone or whatever it is. Now, if you want to set up an industry, practically you have to take up the wastewater wherever it's available, upcycle it to make it industrial use, and make sure that at least what you discharge is better than what you got. Now, you may call it a ESG responsibility and report it, as part of Vijayji said that we have to report it and give it. But I don't think it's an obligation that the government is casting upon you. You are using the water, please take care of it. Let's look at air as a subject. Most industries today are grappling with all these CPCB and the state pollution control boards are giving this red card and yellow card every now and then, and saying that, hey guys, what is this ppm that you're talking about, whether PM 2.5 or PM 10 emissions which are coming around, and I think most of us are suffering because of all these health-related issues. Now, isn't it our responsibility to make sure that the environment in which we operate, air pollution is being brought to the lowest level, or rather its air is being improved from here on? Now, there are technologies available, there are solutions available, and I'm telling you these solutions doesn't cost much. If I can tell you that by bringing this technology to common use, if you can get more profit, will you call it an obligation, or will you call it an opportunity for a corporate? I think there's an opportunity for us. And I can exemplify it in case you want to talk. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm sure you would have been operating and reporting on the water side many a times. Now we report how many liters of water we use, how many liters of water we reprocess, upcycle, recycle, what it is reporting it. Now, do you know that when you recycle the water, particularly in the desalination or wherever you are treating with high TDS water, I mean, when you are getting a high TDS water, when you bring down the TDS of the water, the brine that comes out of it, I mean, which is what we call the high TDS water, because when you purify the water, the brine is a calcium chloride. It's a commodity which is being often bought by the corporates, NaCl in chemical terms. Now, when I'm saying by treating the water we can make money, I mean, do I need to convince you more? And if I can tell you that this whole area in your factory, which is about 50 acres, and you can clean it in less than 15 lakhs or 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs a year, and that will reduce your absenteeism by 10%, and you will spend 50 lakhs less on your health cost of your employees and their families, which you are anyway otherwise covering it. Is it an obligation or is it an opportunity for us? Or when I say that instead of using diesel that you are burning on your day-to-day, whatever it is, if you can consume biofuel out of it, and that will be cheaper than consuming diesel, is it a challenge or opportunity? And then our friends, as a reporting authority, will also give you better marks, and you will get better market capitalization or market valuation. I think this is a great opportunity for all of us to start working towards it. I don't think ESG, or for that matter, keep the jargons away. As long as we are conscious of what resources we are consuming, and we are making this whatever restriction that we have as an opportunity or blessing, it's an indirect blessing for us to create more business and more valuation for our stakeholders. I think we should all look towards it, irrespective of the fact whether government is codifying it currently in the form of ESG or not. Let me give you one example and you will relate to it. Today we are consuming carbon dioxide, or we are producing carbon dioxide at no cost. Today in Europe, per ton of CO2, there is already a cost implied of $65. So the moment you emit 1 ton of CO2, there is a $65 cost levied onto it. Now, all of us drive the car, we buy petrol and gasoline, diesel, whatever it is. Don't we pay cess on it? For our green cess or whatever now they call it, infrastructure cess. Just imagine that you have a $65 per ton of carbon cess coming to India. And let me tell you, it's not far off. Most countries already reached about $30–35 a ton of carbon cess. Just imagine the moment you get a $65 carbon cess, if you are exporter to European market, and European market says, hey guys, we levy $65 to our local producer, just because you happen to come from India, I'm not going to give you free, I am going to indirectly levy $65 indirect emission cost on this. Most of our export business to Europe will come to standstill on core industries. If our industry is not today taking care of that, do you feel that company will survive? So is it an obligation or is it rather a challenge that need to be dealt with? And in the process, if you can get a better ESG score or better environmental score and make your business long-term sustainable and at least viable, I think this is a time that we need to reflect back and start working towards providing solution and implementing it, rather than just simply saying that this is one more reporting obligation, like I need to fill up these 20 forms and then talk to stakeholders. It would become, I would say, we should see more this as an opportunity than a challenge at the moment.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an elaborate answer. And for the audience, because we have the audience of chartered accountants, as you had rightly mentioned, being a chartered accountant, जो पहला thought आता है कि यार ये तो एक reporting requirement है, ESG जो है, और हम वहीं तक ही इसको रोक करके रुक जाते हैं, उसको सोच करके रुक जाते हैं. But then we also don the hat of being a consultant to our clients. Under that hat, we need to understand कि आज जो सर ने अभी बात बताई कि each and every action that is taken by a corporate towards environment sustainability eventually helps in profitability and wealth creation. A very classical example कि RO water आप लगा रहे हैं, उसका जो outline आ रहा है या जो उसका waste जो बच रहा है, उससे NaCl produce हो सकता है. So nobody has thought of that. So as consultants, I think we ourselves have to understand that the horizon of this field is way beyond reporting. But because our topic today is ESG and sustainability reporting, hence I will again come back to that. So over to you, Vijay sir. So as far as reporting is concerned for ESG in India, what is the current status? क्या वो सारे कंपनीज को करनी पड़ती है या सारे बिजनेस हाउसेस को या सारी एंटिटीज को, और इज इट रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू सर्टेन स्पेसिफिक एंटिटीज?
Earlier in 2012, there were business responsibility reporting, BRR, and that was applicable to 100 top listed company as per the market capitalization. So after that, in 2015, SEBI brings some guidelines and include the ESG parameters also in the business reporting, responsibility reporting, BRR. In 2019-20, they again come with the changes and make it applicable to the 500 top listed company. And again, they made it 1,000 top listed company as per the market capitalization. And what they did, they include the sustainability report in BRR also. So now the BRR is called as BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting. So they include all the parameters in this BRSR reporting. So now what is happening in the 2021-22? It was optional for the company so that they can prepare for this new area of the ESG reporting. But from 2022 and 23, it is compulsory for all the 1,000 listed company to make the BRSR reporting.
Oh, so we are just
we
away.
have to prepare for that.
We are just 2 months away from this compulsory reporting.
Yeah, as Satya sir said, initially it is look like a responsibility. But ultimately, we will become a partner in the national building by complying with this ESR reporting.
Right. So, but जितनी भी अभी ये रिपोर्टिंग है, so now to sum that up, अभी सब कंपनीज या सारी एंटिटीज के ऊपर ये रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं आई है. ये जो रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट है, this has actually come because of directives of SEBI. Because it is SEBI who has bring it up, it is only limited to listed entities, और listed entities में भी अभी उन्होंने कहा है कि ये top 1000 entities को ही अभी इसको report करने की ज़रूरत है. So, Hemant sir, in your experience, मतलब, what do you feel that sooner than later it will be applicable on all?
Nikhil, another good question. And there are two facets to it. One is from a compliance point of view, I think the stepwise approach SEBI is following ultimately सबको apply करेगी. At least सब listed companies को apply करेगी, right? Ministry of Corporate Affairs, if it gets into the act, then शायद सबको भी apply करे. But as of now, सब listed companies. But अगर आप basic principle पे जाओ ना, BRSR का जो basic principle है, it goes back to, are you aware of the impact you're creating on the environment, on the society, and are you running good governance practices as an organization? So in a way, मेरे हिसाब से companies को BRSR formally ना भी करें, but internally जो good practices है BRSR की, वो absorb करके adopt कर लेनी चाहिए. Right? In principle, मेरे हिसाब से in the near future ये listed companies को apply करेगी. Maybe in the distant future सब companies को apply करेगी. But at least to answer your question directly, मेरे हिसाब से listed companies को करेगी.
Thank you, sir. And Satya sir, globally, so US अभी तक भी US के अंदर कंपलसरी नहीं हुआ है किसी भी तरीके की ESG रिपोर्टिंग. EU के अंदर there is a lot of compulsion, there is a lot of requirement, even capital, मतलब आज वहाँ के जितने भी investors हैं उनके ऊपर भी ये requirement आती है कि ESG compliant होने चाहिए वो, यानी कि वो अगर किसी भी investee के अंदर invest कर रहे हैं, right, तो वो ESG compliant होने चाहिए. Now, when we look at least अभी का जो SEBI का annexure है for BRSR reporting के लिए overall, there are certain qualitative, there are certain quantitative aspect कि कितने आपके employees छोड़ के गए, कितने आपने नए करे, कितनी आपने ट्रेनिंग्स करी एम्प्लॉइज की, विच इज मोर क्वांटिटेटिव. देयर आर सर्टेन क्वालिटेटिव डेटास एज वेल, राइट, दैट व्हाट इज द कोर इम्पैक्ट एरिया जो आपको आपकी इंडस्ट्री सबसे ज्यादा जिस पे वर्क कर रही है. So how do we differentiate, or looking it from the perspective of investors or anything, how do we read specifically the qualitative data out of all these reportings?
So I think we are in an evolutionary phase. I mean, let me just ask this question: 40 years back, 30 years back, and now let's reflect back. As a corporate, can you afford to employ child labor?
No.
Can you export out of that company which has got even a doubt about using child labor?
No.
So you don't have a thought that I can use child labor as a resource and make more money out of it. Then why do you think that I can pollute the environment and still make profits? Maybe there is not direct cost imposed on you. I'm telling you, guys, it's not far off. Maybe it's just a matter of few years. I'm not talking about few decades. There you are going to pay for every resource that you are going to consume, which is provided by the nature. Let me tell you, the moment, I'm not talking about the moment you are being levied a carbon tax, and I would urge the government to levy the carbon tax as early as possible, maybe tomorrow. And I hope that the minister concerned brings a carbon tax. Let the people start relating to what cost they are bringing for that product. Let people be aware of it. Unless you are being levied on the road tax, you don't know the cost of running the car, which is otherwise. Let that tax be there. The moment you have this tax, you will see this as a great opportunity to start thinking green and sustainable. The moment you start using water as a resource and you are not giving the water back in the shape that you have brought in, then the moment you have water tax on it, you will start thinking in the direction. It's a matter of time. I would urge every corporate or every practitioner who is related to the corporate, like all of us, to start thinking from the perspective that, is my business sustainable while I pay for the cost that I incur on the organization, incur on the environment. So my recycling cost or reuse cost or upcycling cost has to be part of my cost dynamics. And that has to be thought through very clearly. This reporting framework will keep evolving. Is two lines here missing, 3 lines missing there, some country ahead, some country falling behind. It's just a matter of time. Let's start practicing what is required to be done before it becomes applicable from a reporting perspective. So I think we need to be first open our mind, saying that it is no more a reporting obligation, but an obligation that we need to incur as part of our corporate cost structure. And there's an opportunity for us. I'll give you an example. Most of CAs here. Today, when we talk about diesel, we are consuming diesel every day. Suppose you get the same diesel that you're consuming, and it comes from biosource. Let's say biodiesel, or we call it biofuel, first generation, second generation. And it's available at the same price. Would you use that? And if I tell you it's cheaper than the hydrocarbon diesel, would you use that?
Definitely.
उसमें तो अक्ल लगाने की भी जरूरत नहीं है. Then, now we need to figure out, can I make my green diesel at a effective cost less than that? No. Maybe I can have a separate conversation on that. If I tell you that I can give you 12% cheaper than what you're currently buying, does it require any commonsensical judgment beyond that? And if I tell you by using that you will save on carbon credits, do you still need to think about it? No. That's the reason I'm telling you, everything which is a challenge right now can be an opportunity for us. Why Prime Minister Modi and why the current slogan of G20 today is to go green and sustainable? Because let me tell you guys, we come from this land of pious Bharat, which has believed in protecting the nature in every form, every culture. आप कोई कहानी, कोई कथा, कोई देवता देख लीजिए, कोई देवी देख लीजिए, हम लोग धरती की पूजा, पेड़ की पूजा, जल की पूजा, हमको हर चीज को हमने देव और देवत्व देखा है. So we are coming from a land which has taken care of environment as part of its culture and traditions. Today, the global world has largely driven by consumption, or rather overconsumption, and that has led to a different kind of challenge, which is now getting manifested in the form of ESG responsibility or sustainability and green and net zero and climate change and all that. Now, this is a time that we as a country can lead the world by saying that, hey, we can grow and we can grow sustainably. And that's the reason India's leadership today is at that crossroad where they can say, hey guys, we have a choice like you to make, where we can just simply look at growth, but we have chosen to grow with sustainability. And that's the reason everywhere you talk about it, the government and its stakeholders today in general, and almost all our key stakeholders are talking about sustainability in a big way. Whether it's a green hydrogen approach, green ammonia side of it, whether it's a EV adoption at mass scale, whether you're talking about sustainable regenerative agriculture, wastewater treatment, desalination, air pollution, we are talking of solutions at a global scale. So it's a time that we need to really bring back our traditions as part of our corporate culture and adopt sustainability and green as part of our core ethos beyond reporting requirement today. Reporting requirement will just come in and it will be simply applicable. It's just a matter of time. And I'm only going to insist that this is not an obligation which is costing you money. This is an obligation which will give you a bigger opportunity to create businesses, and you can lead in those businesses globally and create more stakeholder value.
Right, sir. So we'll hold on to that thought. And while we have discussed so much about ESG, environment and sustainability, there is one particular topic which was, there was a lot of buzz around that topic today at the breakfast. And that was social stock exchange. So who better to discuss about social stock exchange than Hemant sir himself? So sir, please enlighten us that what exactly is social stock exchange and how will it operate? Because, you know, all the chartered accountants, I'm pretty sure that all of them have one or the other client, right, who is a charitable organization, maybe a charitable trust, a charitable society, a Section 8 company. So they want to understand that what exactly is this social stock exchange and how can these organizations benefit from it?
Okay. So social stock exchange. It is not a new concept, right? There are 12 social stock exchanges across the world. But जो हम इंडिया में try कर रहे हैं is very different from what has been done in other parts of the world. बाकी देशों में जो social stock exchanges हैं वो by and large या तो they are a directory of projects, social projects, or they are a listing of commercial social projects. So, right, so a for-profit organization that is working in the social space can come to like Singapore has IIX as an example, can come to IIX and raise money. But there is a commercial, so the person who's putting in money actually is expecting a financial return. जो इंडिया में हम सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज लॉन्च किया है, गोइंग बैक हिस्टोरिकली 2019 के बजट में मैडम सीतारामन हैड लॉन्च्ड अनाउंस्ड इट, और पिछले 3-4 साल से वी बीन वर्किंग ऑन क्रिएटिंग समथिंग दैट imbibes the learnings from the other social stock exchanges across the world, but create something that is relevant for the Indian context. Okay. उसके लिए there are 3 things that we have introduced which don't exist anywhere else in the world. Okay. पहली चीज, we have introduced the concept of a zero coupon, zero principal instrument. Zero coupon, zero principal instrument is a donation. However, it's a donation that exists on the stock exchange, which means an investor can hold a zero coupon, zero principal instrument in a demat form. दूसरी चीज, in close participation with ICAI, we have introduced the concept of social audit. Okay? Social audit, to my mind, is actually a game changer in this space, because जो बंदा social stock exchange के through किसी NGO या किसी for-profit social enterprise में पैसा डाल रहा है, the social audit mechanism actually gives him transparency into उसके पैसे का क्या impact हो रहा है, what is happening, what is the enterprise doing with his money. The third thing that we have introduced as a part of the social stock exchange is something that it's still in the works, is a capacity building fund which will help organizations come onto the social stock exchange, right? So it acts as an enabling mechanism. जो social stock exchange create कर रहे हैं हम, it is broadly, if you think about it, is a segment on the existing stock exchange. So it is not a new stock exchange that is getting created.
So effectively, BSE and NSE will have a separate segment as social stock exchange, and there is not a third stock exchange that is coming up.
Correct. Okay. उसमें list करने के लिए you have to first prove that you are social, right? उसके लिए हमने we went through the CSR schedule 7 of CSR, SDGs, Niti Aayog, and created a list of 15 areas in which your organization should be working. Okay, one or more of those areas. Second thing we did is that you have to do at least 2/3 of your activities in one or more of those 15 areas. So ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने एक project किया in health and you declare yourself to be a social enterprise. On a consistent basis, 2/3 of your activities have to be in one of those social areas. And the third thing we did is we, for the moment, have said कि political, religious, corporate foundations, some entities are outside of the social stock exchange. They cannot come onto the social stock exchange.
Okay, so religious cannot come.
Religious cannot come, political cannot come, corporate foundations that are dependent on a corporate for getting resources.
So you mean something like a Reliance Foundation or a Tata Foundation, they cannot
raise money through the
they
social
cannot raise money through this.
Right. The second, so if you pass that test, that litmus test of being a social enterprise, then if you're a for-profit social enterprise, then you can go into the regular stock exchange mechanism, right? So you can raise money through IPOs, equity, debt, whatever the regular stock exchange provides. But what we created fresh was for a not-for-profit organization, because not-for-profit organizations traditionally don't list on a stock exchange. So for a not-for-profit organizations, there's a two-step process that the social stock exchange has. One is you register yourself as a not-for-profit organization on the stock exchange, right? And uske liye bhi we have not created something new. What we
irrespective of the entity structure, they can be
a society, trust, or a Section 8 company,
Okay.
3-year track record.
So it is not required that any of the society or trust have to first convert into Section 8 company.
No.
Even as society, they can come up on
Correct.
the stock exchange.
So which is what I'm saying. We've tried to follow, for example, schedule Section 135. We've tried to stick to existing parameters which are time tested, and we've not created something new. Only thing we've done is we've said that when you come on the stock exchange, you have disclosure requirements, right? So you have to, on a quarterly, on an annual basis, disclose what is happening in your organization. You have to comply with certain restrictions. That cost, that imposes a certain additional cost, right? So therefore we have said that rather than having every NGO come onto the social stock exchange, there is a size requirement, 50 lakhs of annual budget the organization has to have if they want to come on the social stock exchange. It's just like on the stock exchange, you don't have all the 2.5 lakh companies that are there in India. You only have 7,500, right? Once you've registered on the social stock exchange, then you can start raising funds at a project level, right? So let's say you want to do in Ajmer a project that involves educating girls, right? So you first, just like you come to a stock exchange to raise funds, you first create an offer document which says from X date to this date, for a budget of 2 crore rupees, I will educate 200 girls. I'm just making this up, right? And I will do that with the following resources. This is my fund utilization plan, etc. These are the risk factors. COVID can happen. You know, I will detail all of that in my offer document, and I will come to the stock exchange and say, I want to raise 2 crores. Right? There are donors or investors who will then put in money into that project, expecting not a financial return, but expecting a social return. Right? So they are not putting in money to earn interest or to earn principal. They are putting in money to earn a social return, which is why the instrument that they will use is called zero coupon, zero principal.
Okay, so zero coupon is zero interest and zero principal is that you will not even get your principal back.
Correct.
So effectively this is philanthropy and not investment.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. Right? So, and as you know, NGOs operate like that. They are not expected. My thought process about the future of the social stock exchange actually is that zero coupon, zero principal is a starting point. I hope and expect that in future more structured financial instruments that blend not for profit and for profit will come onto the social stock exchange. They already exist. So there's a construct called the social development bond or a social impact bond, right? Which brings together a investor that is looking at a financial return and an investor that is looking at a social return under one umbrella. So my hope and my expectation is in the near future, we will actually have more complex instrument that will actually increase participation, okay? The second thing, and I like to end with this, the second thing is that this social stock exchange is not meant to replace current philanthropy.
I was about to ask that.
Right? It is meant to create additional channels of funding, and that is the hope. Right? So it's not that जो बंदा जो NGO CSR के through पैसा as an example raise कर रहा है will now have to come to the social stock exchange and do the same thing, right? The hope is that you come to the social stock exchange because you are able to tap into new channels of funding. Okay?
So can we also expect, so today, the way the philanthropy or everything, regulatory wise, is working, whenever we make any donation to any of these charitable organizations, we get benefit under income tax as ATG, right? The companies who are bound to make any kind of expenditure under CSR, if they make any donation to any of these charitable organizations, it is treated that they have completed their CSR responsibilities, right? So now, speaking from the perspective of an individual donor and a corporate donor, so will the individual donor still get that ATG benefit if he invests or takes up these bonds, and will the corporate get it will be treated as CSR funding if they invest through this channel?
So as of now, CSR funds are not allowed on the social stock exchange. Okay, so they have to, which is why I took that example specifically. CSR funds are expected to be routed through normal channels that they get routed through today. The social stock exchange is actually meant to get other donors, other philanthropists to participate in the social development ecosystem. Going back to a point that Satyaji made a short while ago, if we have to achieve the SDG goals that this country is promised to do, right, we need a lot more money than the government spends today on social development. We need a lot more money than what is spent through the CSR channels. We need a lot more money than what is spent through the normal ATG routes. We need additional social capital coming in if you want to meet. And again, going back to what he was saying, अगर हम आज से 10 साल बाद अपने बच्चों के लिए एक ऐसा प्लैनेट छोड़ना चाहते हैं जहाँ पे हवा साफ होगी, पानी की कमी नहीं होगी, खाने की कमी नहीं होगी। ये सब अचीव करने के लिए जो एग्जिस्टिंग फंडिंग चैनल्स हैं वो काफ़ी नहीं। सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज इज बीन क्रिएटेड टू एक्चुअली सी कि क्या और चैनल्स हैं, क्या और फंडिंग सोर्सेज हैं जिसके थ्रू इम्पैक्टफुल प्रोजेक्ट्स में पैसा आ सकता है, पहली चीज़। दूसरी चीज़, जो भी प्रोजेक्ट फंड होता है सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज के थ्रू, उसमें थ्रू द सोशल ऑडिट मैकेनिज्म फुल ट्रांसपेरेंसी होगी ऑन व्हाट इज बीइंग डन विद दैट मनी। तीसरी चीज़, आप सिटिंग इन जयपुर, राइट, यू कैन spend money, give donations to a project happening in Nagaland or in Mizoram or in southern Tamil Nadu in causes that you are passionate about and see what is happening with your money. आज की डेट में अगर मुझे पैसा देना होता है as a donation, I will go to an organization that I know, right? I will go to an organization that my friend knows and my family knows. Through the social stock exchange, we are actually trying to create a national ecosystem of philanthropy.
Correct. So, in this, when you said that CSR is not, CSR fund will not be, but we are trying to attract different fund. In case of individual donor, is there any kind of a minimum limit to it? Because what we had read that minimum 2 lakh rupees will have to be invested.
Yeah.
So that also, takes away a lot of individuals.
Yes.
So then who is the target donor for this?
Okay. I'm going to try and be politically correct in my answer. Okay. One is that there are 11 or 12 social stock exchanges across the world, and none of them have worked very well, right? So when SEBI is working on this initiative, they are starting out in a conservative way, right? So they want this, as an example, the social audit mechanism to prove itself that, it is being adequately transparent. They want the fact that they should not be organizations that come to the social stock exchange and run away with your money, right? So they're being conservative in the first version of the social stock exchange. And therefore, they are placing restrictions like minimum project funding you can raise is 1 crore. You cannot raise funds less than 1 crore.
Okay.
Second, anybody who puts in money into a project, like you very rightly said, can put in a minimum of 2 lakhs. In the assumption being that if you are capable of putting 2 lakhs, A, you know what is going to happen, right? You can afford to put in that money. And B, you have a certain level of sophistication about understanding कि जहाँ मैं पैसा लगा रहा हूँ वहीं मुझे लगाना है. I'm not putting in money. मंदिर में नहीं दे रहा हूँ type, So, I think this is version 1.0 of the social stock exchange. To my mind, zero coupon, zero principal instruments exist today because it's a replication of what happens in the donation space, right? I anticipate, I hope, that this is a transition phase. Version 2.0 will not have a 2 lakh restriction.
Okay.
Will have a much lower restriction.
Okay.
Will have other instruments that are more oriented towards what the investor will want.
Right. And just, sorry, but one last question on
Sure.
this, because this is something which directly, or our audience can directly correlate with. So, when we are talking about social work, right now, as you mentioned, that the social stock exchange is restricted to not-for-profit organizations. It is for profit also?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for profit, and so for profit enterprises, once they prove that they have a primacy of social intent, which means वो 15 sector में काम करते हैं, 2/3 of their activity, then they can actually go to the stock exchange and list.
So
They can raise equity, they can raise debt in the normal way.
in the normal stock exchange, not in the social stock. So let me just give you an example. Suppose there is a hospital chain, right? It is being run in a company structure, right? They are into the healthcare industry, so 100%, not just 2/3, 100% is a part of that CSI structure. Now they come up with a particular project. Let's say they have 5 hospitals, and in those 5 hospitals they have to put in oxygen plants, as was required during COVID, right? And for that they require to raise 5 crore rupees, and it was actually done through donations at that time also. So can a for-profit organization come up for a social project to the stock exchange?
Yes. The short answer is yes. In this particular case, my recommendation would be that you don't dilute the equity in the hospital. You actually raise a bond, let's say a 5-year bond with a certain rate of interest, which is lower than a commercial rate of interest, and raise money through the regular
Okay, but they
social
cannot-
stock exchange channels.
No, but they cannot issue zero coupon zero principle.
No, so zero coupon zero principle is a donation,
Donation,
right?
so
So
that
that
they
is
cannot
only
do.
for
Right.
not for profit.
Not for profit.
Yeah.
Okay, right sir, thank you. So, but अभी continuously एक discussion बहुत बार हुआ social audit, and I know कि जैसे ही वो एक term आता है social, तो I don't know कि कितना important है. Audit जैसे ही आता है तो हमारे being chartered accountant कान खड़े हो जाते हैं. So regarding that social audit, I would like to, and sir ने mention भी किया था कि ICAI के साथ के अंदर ही मिलकर करके सेबी ने social audit को पूरा structure करा है. So Vijay sir, if you can throw some light कि अभी इस field में क्या हो रहा है, have there been any standards that has come up, किस तरीके से ये चीज़ आगे बढ़ रही है?
As you know, social audit exchange is a new idea. So the government and the ICI both are working on the how this idea should be more working and more effective. So the recently 15 days back, the ICI issued the SAS social audit standards. There are 16 standards from SAS 100 to SAS 1600. And what happened when some standards come? The first thing in our mind come that our work is increasing. Our not work, our responsibility and liability is increasing. But friends, my view is this: that by issuing the standards, our scope of audit is defined now. Otherwise, our earlier until this standard was there, our scope was unlimited, our audit scope. But after issuing the standards, our scope has defined, very well defined. So but otherwise there was no idea on what point we have to give our opinion about the social audit. So now we are comfortable with the social audit reports on what point we have to cover in our audits. And another thing, friends, मैं एक चीज़ बोलना चाहूँगा कि ये एक नया emerging area है अपने लिए जो अभी तक जितना भी जो सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है दे आर वर्किंग इन अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड मैनर. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट इज ट्राइंग टू मेक दिस सेक्टर फर्स्ट टाइम इन द हिस्ट्री टू कम इन द ऑर्गेनाइज्ड सेक्टर लाइक कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर. दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव फॉर्म विद द आइडिया ऑफ द सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. सो आई एम सीइंग द फ्यूचर that there will be a like corporate style social organization. So I request all the chartered accountants of Jaipur take the lead in this area. Very emerging area and beneficial area to us. Yeah.
Right sir. So बहुत सही दिन पे हमारी कॉन्फ्रेंस सेट हुई है कि 2 दिन पहले ही अगर ये स्टैंडर्ड्स अगर अभी 15 days back it was already there that they have been issued. Okay.
Can I just add to what he
Yeah,
said?
please sir, please.
So, social auditor के लिए there's a certification that you have to undergo, which is being conducted by NISM, National Institute of Securities Markets. उनका एक 11 मॉड्यूल का एक प्रोग्राम है through which you can get trained. And I think ICI, to his point, ICI has actually set up a Section 8 company called ISAI, Institute of Social Auditors of India, which is a governing body as SRO for social auditors. Right?
Okay, okay. So it's now just like I say, so there will be a parallel body under the umbrella of ICAI only, And that will be responsible for the overall social audit aspect. So we are not only discussing about expansion or in the scope of services for CAs, ICI का भी expansion इसके अंदर effectively हो रहा है. So that's very interesting. And
Nikhil sir, I would like to one question from Hemant sir.
right.
Like Nagar Nigam, JDA, they are also working for the social cause. So there is any planning for future, but they are also has to be covered on the listed on the social audit exchange?
So, as of in most instances, these government bodies are not constituted as a Section 8 company or a society or trust. So technically, in at least the version 1.0, they are not a part
But
of
in
the
2.0, it will be, in my
Correct.
view and my expectation, this will be there.
I certainly hope so, for two reasons. One is that hopefully it will bring greater accountability to the work that is being done by these organizations. And two, people will be able to contribute to the development, social development of their environments. Yes, I agree with you.
Thank you, sir. Satya sir, globally, the concept of impact investing, right, that has evolved and now has matured a lot, right? Any organization, so, you know, one of the biggest PE, BlackRock, they had already issued last year that their key focus area in each and every investment that they will be making is impact investing, that what is the impact of that organization on the overall environment, society, whatever it might be, right? So, आज speaking from the perspective of investee, right? बहुत सारी ऐसी organizations होती हैं जो काफी कुछ काम कर रही है which is towards impact, betterment of society. आज उनका product इस तरीके का है that maybe it is helping persons in hearing or any kind of a medical condition which directly falls within the definition of impact investing. But they don't know कि आज impact investing के specific funds हैं जो I would say cheaper money which can give you cheaper money, they can give you better valuation. So how shall they prepare themselves and how shall they project themselves to attract these impact investors?
I'm a slightly outlier and I want to be a little more outspoken on this. Somehow there is a global perception that when we talk about impact investing, we are coming closer to philanthropy. ये बड़ा ओवरलैप होता है इसके बीच में कि मैं philanthropy कर रहा हूँ या impact investing कर रहा हूँ. And this is a wrong clubbing in my view. The real, at least the way that I look at it is that let's look at our lifestyle. I think हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा एक technical jargon में घुस जाते हैं. Let's look at our lifestyle. I mean, all of us as a human being. What do we do in our active life? We try to create some wealth for us, for our family, for our society. At the end of the day, what we do? We think of putting that wealth to some use. Whatever be the cause that we are related to it, our family is now taken care of, so kuch aur karte hain. We try to do some charity. What happens when we do charity? Two things. One is, first and foremost, we don't know how much we should accumulate before we start doing the charity. So we wait for particular event to happen and then we start doing some charity. Some guys are enlightened, they get realization at the age of 30, 40. Some guys get enlightenment when practically they are hardly few hours left. Okay, and some don't even get enlightenment by the time. So at some point in time, all of us will like to do something good to society around us. But what happens in charity format, we try to still do little, कोई पता नहीं आगे क्या जरूरत पड़ जाए तो थोड़ा कम करता हूँ. And the moment you think it, that if I can do, if whatever I'm doing, if that itself is serving the society, then that becomes a format of impact investing. So any business that you invest, and that business in fact itself has a direct positive correlation to the betterment of the society, I call it a impact investment. Now there you don't think कि मैं 2% ही क्यों दूं? Because here my format is investing, not giving. Two things, philosophically, it takes the karta bhav away. If you believe in Bhagavad Gita, it says that the moment you do charity, there is some bit of ahem which comes to it. अरे मैंने किया, एक कर्ता भाव आ जाता है उसके अंदर, तो वैसे भी वो आपका काम का नहीं है. जब आप इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हो तो कर्ता भाव आता ही नहीं है, क्योंकि आपने तो अपने पैसे कमाने के लिए किया है, तो किस बात का कर्ता, उससे किसी का भला हो रहा है तो बहुत बढ़िया है. So the moment you think that you are an investor, first and foremost you take that karta bhav away, and it's a very, very important. Second thing, I am telling, when you do invest in businesses which are doing social good, think of it as a mainstream investing. Why should it give you less return? The moment I say this is a mainstream investment, but which is doing real impact in the society, you can even put your 30 to 40% or 50% of portfolio to it, because you don't think it in the bucket of philanthropy. You can do it earlier in your life than what you would have done later as part of philanthropy. You can do more allocation towards it, and you can create more socially conscious enterprises, which is what I call real impact investors. So whatever you are doing which is good for the society, if you're investing in a business of lottery, I mean, while you may call it investment, but that's definitely not an impact investment. So you decide what type of businesses you want to allocate your capital. See, let me tell you, in our personal life, professional life, or business life, we as a community, a finance community, has got a biggest responsibility of allocating capital. And the moment we orient our thinking that my capital allocation principle should be looked at from the principle of spirituality or my social consciousness, the moment that get ingredient, that get part of our inculcated habit, you will do much better. Whether it's a ESG principle of allocation, sustainable, green, clean climate tech, impact investment, whatever jargon you call it, you will be a much better human being, you will be a much better professional, and much better business. So in all boardrooms, I would say, bring the social consciousness, bring the capital allocation framework, which is really required for the society.
Right, sir. Very well put, sir. And, but sir, earlier I had said that we will hold that thought, wherein you had mentioned that there are so many ways. You had mentioned about EVs, you had mentioned about various ways. So today, when we are consulting any of our clients, you had already explained about the water resource management, but everything has an cause and effect. So nowadays, new theories are coming that when we are talking about EVs, that the lithium as well as the carbon, which is being used in their batteries, right? That is again causing a lot of issues, or there are other scenarios. So what are the various kind of innovations which are going maybe in air pollution or any field which you would like to highlight, which is going on, which will be beneficial for our audience?
See, I am a strong believer of innovation, because that is where you bring a new dimension to the business model. And I'm not talking about incremental innovation. I'm talking about innovations which are bringing a new framework of doing business. Let's look at the environment today. We talk about climate change. Is it not real? It's real. We are heating the global environment, and that is going to have its own consequences. Why this is happening? Let's take the base case here. Because we are doing more CO2 emissions. When we are doing more CO2 emissions, it has its own implications. Now CO2, carbon dioxide as a core element, it's not that it's useless. Do you know that CO2 plus hydrogen is methanol? Do you know plus CO2 plus ammonia is urea? So it's a core product. What we are talking about is that are we putting that CO2 to its best use? Now, if we are going to bring those kind of innovation which is going to take this challenge itself and make a commercial product out of it, make a use case which is profitable in itself, then a lot of these things can be taken care of. So here what I am talking about is that as long as we are looking towards innovation which are taking the challenges head on and create a business model which are profitable and sustainable on its own, you will be in a different dimension altogether. Whenever we talk about any of the waste stream that comes out of in the plant, generally what the waste stream we release? We either release a waste stream in the form of water, air, or solid waste. These are waste stream normally. Now, each of these waste streams can be dealt in a different way. Let's talk about water pollution. Now, we have water scarcity world over. And unfortunately in India, the scarcity is much more. We don't realize there won't be water available 15 years down the line for most industries in 70% of the country. If we keep doing the way we have been consuming the water, unless we are dealing with it. Now, a lot of people are saying, and I'll give you a real example. If you go and talk to some industrialists and say, sir, ये water recycling तो लगाना पड़ेगा. अरे यार मैंने RO लगा रखा है. वो इतना उसका membrane का इतना cost आता है कि कौन लगाएगा? मेरा थोड़ा बहुत तो चल जाता है यार. कौन पूछता है? Now I'm telling you guys, if your problem is the cost of membrane in RO, in reverse osmosis, let's figure out how can we reduce it. Recently, we have been working with an investment entity in Southeast Asia, and they had the same challenge. What we said, okay, you want to use RO for reverse osmosis, you are using 16-inch filter, whatever technical jargon that you're talking about it. Your biggest cost is the per liter of RO water. And the biggest cost factor that is coming out of is because membrane replacement cost is very high. Then one of our innovators actually gave us a very interesting idea, and that is what we are currently working with. That, okay, and I'm giving you the jargon so that you can understand the innovation world where it's moving. I'm not trying to say that I know more than what you know, but I'm just trying to tell you because I'm also trying to learn from all these learned scientists. He said, boss, why don't you prove some hollow fiber membrane that will reduce the pressure on it and that will reduce the load on RO by 80%. I said, very good. And the waste stream that comes out of it, I'll make NaCl out of it. And that is profitable to me, and that will reduce the cost of water treatment to me. Now, I'm just giving you this. Now, this fellow has solved the problem by reducing the load on that particular system. And he's saying that I will treat your waste stream as a commercial product. And because of that, this fellow is now making the whole water treatment cycle very innovative. Why I'm talking about is that every challenge has got some innovation involved in it. As long as you believe in that, you are going to solve it. You can commercially solve it without compromising your profit and return. And that is what I'm trying to insist in every dialogue that we come across, that think it this as a great opportunity for us, that we can lead the world by bringing the best cost or the most optimal cost desalination solution to the world. We can bring the best water recycling or water upcycling solution to the world. I'll give you an example, another example of air pollution. Now, air pollution is common. India has got significant, all of us are witness to this. If we can have a solution which can bring air pollution to near zero, don't you feel you will be keen to implement it? Now, when you go to the global market and think of the best air pollution solution, बोलते हैं एक काम करो smoke tower लगा दो. Smoke tower, what is the smoke tower function? Now I'm giving you this solution in the context that people can relate to it, how innovations can play an important role into it. Smoke tower लगा दो. What smoke tower does, it basically sucks the air and does the wet scrubbing. एक पानी के वो layer होती है, उसके through air pass होती है, जिससे वो जितना भी उसके ऊपर गंदगी होती है, whatever PM 2.5, it gets scrubbed and you get a clean air, but of course it remains little more humid. But the amount of air you need to suck and the amount of scrubbing you need to do, it consumes a lot of power. So while you will get your air clean, you will use more energy. Who is going to fund the capex for the smoke tower? Who is going to pay for the energy to day-to-day use? So most smoke towers in the world are now not working.
They are redundant.
They are redundant. Yes. Now, when we look at a country like India, we can't afford to invest so much in smoke tower installation. We can't afford to incur so much of cost for running the smoke towers. We have to figure a way out. Recently, we invested in a company, and I'll give you the example, where this fellow is able to just look at Wi-Fi-like device. As long as the range of the device can go, it can clean the air in the radius of 30-40 kilometers. And the cost is not even 1/10 of what a smoke tower is. Now, when you talk about innovation, many such innovations can change the landscape. And that is what I'm talking about, that let's think of an innovative perspective of solution, of bringing the solution to the sustainable world, and that's where we can lead and create more stakeholder value out of the challenges that we are facing on day-to-day basis.
Right, sir. So, talking about innovation, Hemant sir, I would like to know that when a NGO comes on a social stock exchange for a particular project, can they also get funding for research and development? Let's say any kind of those 15 fields only, CSR, any kind of research and development in that?
That's a very good question. Yes, they can. The short answer is they can. Okay. The question is that, remember, the social audit function is an outcome-oriented function. And the research and development process, the process itself is, can have extensions, can have uncertain outcomes. So while it fits into the 15 areas, but I'm not sure how the social audit part of it will get handled.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So at the beginning of the session, what was discussed with the organizing committee, and they had requested, because these are certain topics जिसके के ऊपर audience को भी interact करने का उतना आसानी से मौका नहीं मिलता. So we said that towards the end of the session, we would like to keep 5 to 10 minutes for any kind of Q&A with the audience. So if anybody in the audience have any questions for our panelists, then they can please raise their hand, and we will ask the mic to float. Maybe regarding ESG, sustainability, or any kind of social stock exchange. Sir.
Hello. Are there any investment opportunities in ESG, since it's a hot topic across the world?
Yeah, many. I think there are quite a big themes right now emerging in the sustainable investment space. One of the big themes is, of course, energy transition. The second big theme that is emerging is waste to energy, or waste upcycling and recycling. Third thing which is emerging is basically replacing plastics in one way or the other as part of sustainable packaging. And there are multiple themes actually you can talk about. So, I mean, I can talk about our own experience. We have been investing for almost about 2.5 years now, and I have looked at almost 1,280 proposals. Of course, we invested in just less than 15, but I'm just talking about, so there are enough and more. And I think we as a nation is buzzing with a lot of activities, guys. There are many listed players in the space, but I think we are still taking a baby steps. I would say that a decade from here, you will see a significant amount of billion-dollar companies coming out of the space. So guys, watch out for next amount of capital appreciation to happen in this space. And that will happen irrespective of the fact, irrespective of the regulatory landscape, because that's how the wind is blowing towards it. So whenever you invest, keep track of the tailwind, and there is a significant tailwind behind it. And I'll give you our own experience. And I'll really give you the experience when I'm talking to global investors, and all these investors has got multi-billion-dollar investment budget. And you go and talk to many of these institutions, and you ask them how much you want to invest in the space, and they will talk about numbers that you can't even believe. They don't even start anything less than $1 billion. And you simply ask them that how much you invested so far, and where have you invested? So when you ask them, more than 90% of their investment so far has only happened in wind and solar. Outside of that, it's not even 10%, less than 5%. So that 5% is very minuscule. So they are itching to invest, but we need to create eligible enterprises who can seek that kind of capital in time to come. So if you can create any viable business, okay, I think there will be enough and more capital. I'll give you an example and I'll relate to it from our own experience. We came across and invested in a company which is replacing plastic in day-to-day packaging and it's a sustainable packaging company based out of Bangalore. When we invested, the company was just having a turnover of 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs rupees a month. And it's less than a year. And today that company is doing a turnover of about 6 crore a month. Okay. Now you can imagine the amount of growth you see in sustainable packaging space. And I'm giving you one example. There are multiple examples I can talk about it. And the moment these enterprises go a little bigger, okay, they will be able to attract significant amount of global and local capital. So that's the reason this is no more what we call the impact and the lesser required child. This is where most of the capital will flow in time to come. It's just that we have not yet realized the true potential of this business. And that's the reason I keep talking about it. ESG might be a reporting responsibility for us as a chartered accountant. ESG is one of the biggest opportunity for us, or sustainable investment is one of the biggest opportunity for us to allocate capital for our clients that we serve and be aware of it to create the biggest wealth for our stakeholders as well as us. The company that we invested is called Bambrew. B-A-M-B-R-E-W. But anyway, it's there on our website, you can check it.
If I can just add to what Satyaji said, so the other hat I wear at BSc is I run the tech incubator at BSc. It's called Zone Startups, right? And we have enough companies that come to us in the ESG, in the sustainability space. Governance, I'll leave aside. To his example, we have a company that makes plastic out of seaweed. Right? We have a company that makes linen out of wild grass that grows in the Himalayas. We have a company that makes clothing material out of agricultural waste. There are enough companies that are there. I mean, you have to have but to his point, there is some amount of patience required and some amount of due diligence required. Because not every story, regardless of how sexy it sounds, will be successful, right? So,
Right, sir. So, keeping track of time, last 5 minutes from each of the panelists, I would like to have the closing remarks, or rather, because of the topic, I would say the call to action overall. So, Hemant, sir.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so two things. One is, there are today on a stock exchange 3 segments that exist. You have the main board, which is what we are most familiar with, the 7,500 companies listed on the BSE. You have the SME platform, right, which lists companies that are slightly smaller, and then you have the startup platform, right? Any of these segments succeed only if there is a community, only if there is an ecosystem, right? And the social stock exchange will also need to build an ecosystem and will need to evolve. So I'll give you an example of the small SME platform. The merchant bankers that operate on the main board do a lot more and charge a lot more than an SME company can afford. So as a part of creating the SME platform, at BSc we also created a separate pool of merchant bankers that focus only on the SME space and are very specialized in what they do and also charge a lot less than the main board merchant bankers. I'm just taking that as an example. The social stock exchange will require an ecosystem to be built. And you guys exist in every nook and corner of this country. You play a pivotal role in every enterprise, for profit or not for profit, in this country. And I hope that you guys will step forward and make this social stock exchange a success.
Vijay sir?
Yeah. Sir, as Satya sir told from some quotes from the Gita, so I just relate ESG and sustainability with in easy language. It is nothing but just like a Basdev Kutambikam. In ESG and sustainability, अगर businessman ये सोचता है कि ये देश, ये planet, ये universe, ये पेड़, ये पौधे, ये पहाड़, ये सब मेरे हैं, I have to take care of that. ये feeling आनी है उसको. ये फैमिली, ये एम्प्लॉय मेरे, इन्वेस्टर, क्रेडिटर, ये मेरा परिवार है, इनका मेरे को टेक केयर करना है. इफ दिस टाइप ऑफ फीलिंग इज देयर, ESG एंड सस्टेनेबिलिटी रिपोर्टिंग एंड कंप्लायंस इज देयर. सो दिस इज द गवर्नमेंट वांट टू द फीलिंग. या, थैंक यू.
Final closing remarks, Satya sir.
I have a serious ask, a call to action, and two levels. One from my alma mater institute, one from my fellow members and friends. To the office bearers and the dignitaries from ICI, I think this would be a great opportunity to participate at much bigger level and engage with this opportunity which has come once in a lifetime for us to lead the world. When others are grappling the challenge, we are taking it head on. And fortunately, the environment is there. We should take a lead on it. As an official body which has got the best interaction with the whole of corporate India, we should create an ecosystem or be a dialogue partner to be the green and sustainability champion or innovation champion in the space. I'm happy to engage separately and discuss my 2 cents if that's any worth. But I personally believe this would be a lost opportunity unless we deeply engage with our ecosystem, or rather lead the ecosystem in one way or the other. That's number one. Number two, we as a professional, whether we are members in industry or members in practice, has got a significant influence on capital allocation for our corporate world or clients, or we have much better say, because in most financial decisions, somewhere we have at least allocation or influence in the boardroom or outside the boardroom. We as a member should take the pledge that we will pursue or influence our corporate clients that at least some part of their current allocation of capital, if it's 1,000 crore corporate, at least 1 to 2% of it should get allocated towards the current challenges that we are facing and where India can lead the world. I am happy to again discuss specific opportunities that they can. A fellow member just now asked that, are there an opportunity to invest? I would say that my simple principle, and this is something I've been practicing as part of being on the family boards of various corporate influence that I had, that every year, see, we remain alive as long as our sales get regenerated every time. We don't remain with the same skin. Similar way, our business, we should make it a principle that every year, at least 10% of my revenue should come from an area that I have not pursued in the past. That means I should be continuously evolving and innovating in my business model. And that will only happen if you look outside, not inside. Whatever you are doing inside is always part of you. How will you get the outside wind blowing into you? Only when you start investing outside. See, as a businessman, if I'm a part of pharma industry, I would know enough and more about pharma industry. But I don't know anything about the packaging industry or for that matter, there are 20 other innovations happening elsewhere. So what can I do? We need to create a framework whereby we learn from others. And for that, we should start investing in innovation, start investing something outside of industry or something that we have not done in the past. In one way or the other, we should keep evolving and innovating so that we can remain agile and sustainable. So I would urge each one of fellow members that start looking at this dimension as part of capital allocation principle, whether you look at it as a professional growth or whether you take it as a social responsibility or maybe your contribution to the innovation ecosystem. I leave the judgment to the august audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all the panelists for such an enlightening session and discussion. So with this, we bring the session to a close. Thank you.
Thank you.
A big round of applause for the moderator and the panelists. Thank you all for sharing such thought-provoking inputs and acquainting us with this emerging topic of ESG. I am sure we're all now ready to explore the newest arena of environmental social governance in our professional space.
Now, it's time to move towards the inaugural session of the conference. Shivangi, you know that as an Indian, it has been imbibed in us that Atithi Devo Bhava. So here I, with immense pleasure, would apprise you all that the chief Atithi of this conference, His Excellency, Honorable, the Governor of Rajasthan, Shri Kalraj Mishra ji, would be joining us shortly.
With his due permission in absentia, I hereon invite CA Ruchi Gupta ma'am, Secretary, Jaipur branch of ICAI, to please grace the dais.
I'd also request CA Kuldeep Gupta sir, Chairman, Jaipur branch of ICAI, to come on the stage.
I request CA Kuldeep Gupta sir, Chairman, Jaipur branch of ICAI, to please join us on the stage. I also request Conference Director and Central Council Member, CA Prakash Sharma sir, to please escort the guest of honor of the conference, CA Sanjay Agarwal sir, MD and founder of AU Small Finance Bank, to the dais. A big round of applause, everybody. CA Sanjay Agarwal sir is a first-generation entrepreneur, a true visionary, and a pioneer of financial inclusion. He is a merit holder chartered accountant and founder of the only asset financing NBFC to successfully convert itself into a small finance bank. AU Small Finance Bank later on became a scheduled commercial bank and a Fortune 500 company. Mr. Agarwal is a recipient of many accolades. Some of them are EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2018, Economic Time Changers of India 2019. We welcome you, sir.
Now, I request CA Lokesh Kasat sir to please present bouquet and memento to the guest of honor.
I also request CA Dr. Abhishek Sharma sir to adorn the guest of honor with Safa.
I request CA Sunil Moore sir to drape the guest of honor with a shawl.
I now request CA Ashok Kumar Jain sir to present a memento to the guest of honor.
I now invite CA Kuldeep Gupta sir, Chairman, Jaipur branch of ICAI, to kindly give the welcome speech.
माननीय परिवर्तन संसार का नियम है और ये होते रहेंगे, हमें बस एक्सेप्ट करना है और आगे बढ़ना है। जैसे अभी इनिशियल जो फर्स्ट सेशन था, सत्या सर ने बताया कि 10% ऑफ इनकम हमारे नॉन कन्वेंशनल से आनी चाहिए। ऐसे छोटी छोटी टिप्स हमें अगर मिलती रहेगी तो डेफिनेटली पर्टिकुलरली हम एज वाले मेंबर्स के लिए बड़ा हेल्पफुल होगा आगे फ्यूचर ग्रोथ के लिए। आई CA कुलदीप गुप्ता, Chairman Jaipur branch, formally welcomes you all in this conference, which is organized by Committee of Members in Practice and Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Services Committee. मैं स्वागत करना चाहूँगा पूरे जयपुर ब्रांच, और मैं तो कहूँगा ये नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस है तो पूरे इंडिया से आए हुए CA की तरफ से। आज के हमारे मुख्य अतिथि माननीय गवर्नर साहब अभी मौजूद नहीं है, अभी थोड़ी देर में हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे। हमारे गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर संजय अग्रवाल सर, हमारे अपने संजय अग्रवाल सर। बड़ा गर्व होता है कि जब कहीं बात होती है, डिस्कशन होता है, साहब AU बैंक, अरे ये तो जयपुर का बैंक है, तो ये इक्वली सर डोंट टेक अदरवाइज, बट सर हमें लगता है कि सर हम भी एक बार तो MD हो गए सर। थैंक यू सो मच सर, क्योंकि ये कहीं ना कहीं मोटिवेशन फैक्टर है सर, और ये विजन का फ़र्क है। थोड़ा सा हमें अपना विजन ब्रॉड रख के चलना पड़ेगा। तो डेफिनेटली इस तरीके से हम भी कभी ना कभी हमारे होता ना कि कहीं पे हमारा ऐसा नाम होगा। तो इसी चीज़ के लिए, कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए, जैसे इनिशियली जब कॉन्फ्रेंस का प्लान जब हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे तो ये समझ में आया कि सर एक तो नॉर्मल किसी क्लोज पे एनालिसिस करना है तो CPRs हो गए, हमारे वर्कशॉप्स हो गई, वो सब चीज़ें होती है। तो कॉन्फ्रेंस का पर्पज़ क्या होता है एग्जैक्टली? कॉन्फ्रेंस का पर्पज़ जो हमें समझ में आया वो होता है कि आने वाले 5 साल 10 साल में हमें क्या करना है और क्या नहीं करना है, इन सब चीज़ों पे ब्रॉडली डिस्कशन, हमारा पाथवे क्या होना चाहिए, इन सब पे डिस्कशन है। तो इसीलिए हमने नॉन कन्वेंशनल टॉपिक्स को भी हमने इंपॉर्टेंस दी है, और एक टॉक शो की तरह हमने पैनलिस्ट की तरह मैक्सिमम सेशन उसी पैटर्न पे रखें। और डेफिनेटली जब हम मुंबई वाली वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ अकाउंट्स, जो कि ICI के इतिहास में पहली बार हुई है इंडिया में 118 साल में, उस कॉन्फ्रेंस से जो हमने टेक अवे लिया वो यही था कि नए अपॉर्चुनिटीज़, टैक्सेशन, भले ही वो इनकम टैक्स हो, GST हो, ये सब चीज़ें चलती रहेगी। वो भी अपने आप में कोर फील्ड है, मैं उसको डिनाई नहीं करूँगा, बट नए फील्ड्स जैसे कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी, फॉरेंसिक्स, साइबर सिक्योरिटी, ये सारे टॉपिक्स वैसे हैं जो हम सभी प्रोफेशनल्स को, हमारी टीम को इक्विप्ड होना है और इक्विप्ड करना है हमें हमारी टीम को अपनी पर्सनल ग्रोथ के लिए, अपने प्रोफेशनल ग्रोथ के लिए और ICI के ब्रांड बिल्डिंग के लिए। मैं धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा हमारे सभी स्पॉन्सर्स का, मीडिया से आए हुए लोगों का, हमारी टीम का, और स्पेशली जयपुर ब्रांच का, और मैं कहीं भूल जाऊँ प्रकाश शर्मा सर का, जिनकी कमेटी में ये प्रोग्राम हो रहे हैं, जिनकी गाइडेंस में ये पूरी कॉन्फ्रेंस ने एक इस तरीके से एक आकार लिया है। तो थैंक यू सो मच सर, आप सभी यहाँ पे पधारे, थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you so much, sir.
Now, I request the conference director and CCM, CA Prakash Sharma sir, to share few words of wisdom. But before that, I would like to highlight that Prakash Sharma sir is the chairman of Banking, Financial Services and Insurance Committee of ICAI. He is also the chairman of Committee for Members in Practice, advisor to SMP Committee of International Federation of Accountants. He is also the chairman of the SMP Committee of South Asian Federation of Accountants. He is also a member of Accounting Research Foundation. We welcome you, sir.
Respected our own CA and guest of honor, Sanjay Agrawal ji, chairman of AU बैंक। हमारे चेयरमैन जयपुर ब्रांच कह रहे थे कि हमको गर्व होता है कि जब AU बैंक के ऑनर जयपुर के हैं, हम ये कहते हैं, तो हमको उससे ज़्यादा गर्व तब होता है जब हम कहते हैं कि संजय जी भी CA हैं। one of the youngest and dynamic chairman of Jaipur branch, कुलदीप जी, यहाँ पे आप लोगों से शेयर करना चाहूँगा कि वन ऑफ द मेरे क्लोज है ये, लेकिन शायद हम दोनों की एज में डिफरेंस के कारण हम दोनों में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बहुत रहता है, बट स्टिल फाइनली मेरे को इनकी बात माननी पड़ती है क्योंकि अब जमाना यंगेस्ट लोगों का है. Another my very dynamic and young secretary, Ruchi, Anil Yadav ji, mentor of this conference, Sanjay Jhamar ji, Anil Bafna ji, PP Parikh sahab, Ravind Manoj ji, SS Bhandari sahab in absentia, पूरी अदर टीम जो इसमें लगी हुई है, अभिषेक शर्मा जी, लोकेश कासट, अदर एग्जीक्यूटिव मेंबर्स, अशोक जैन साहब, एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्टिसिपेंट्स, आप सबका बहुत बहुत स्वागत. फ्रेंड्स, लास्ट कॉन्फ्रेंस हमने 30 और 31 दिसंबर 2019 में की थी और 3 साल बाद हम वापस इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को लेके आप सब लोगों के लिए आए हैं. जो लास्ट कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई थी उसके बाद जो पीरियड हमने फेस किया, कभी किसी ने, मैं एक सीनियर सिटीजन बन गया हूं तो भी मैंने मेरी लाइफ में कभी ऐसा सोचा भी नहीं था कि हम इस ऐसे दौर से निकलेंगे. और उस दौर में लकीली 2019 में ही इंस्टीट्यूट में हमने सारी वर्किंग ऑनलाइन कर दी थी. उसका हमको बहुत बड़ा बेनिफिट मिला कि हमारी 90% वर्किंग ऑनलाइन रही. और उस कोविड पीरियड में जबकि हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज खुद की ज़िंदगी का था, खुद की फाइनेंशियल सर्वाइवल का था, हमारे क्लाइंट की फाइनेंशियल सर्वाइवल के लिए उसको हेल्प करने का था, जितनी वर्चुअल हमने सेमिनार, कॉन्फ्रेंस, मीटिंग्स अटेंड की, शायद पूरी लाइफ में भी कभी नहीं की थी. कोशिश इंस्टीट्यूट की ये थी कि इस टाइम में हम अपने मेंबर्स को कैसे अपडेट करें, उसको टारगेट करते हुए बहुत सारी स्टडीज़ को रिलेटेड हुए मेंबर की नॉलेज को अपडेट करने के लिए डिफरेंट प्रोग्राम करते रहे. फ्रेंड्स, जब वो पीरियड चल रहा था, उस 3 साल में बिलीव कीजिए कि जो इंस्टीट्यूट में वर्किंग हुई, वो इंस्टीट्यूट जब से इस्टेब्लिश हुआ तब से कभी ऐसा नहीं हुआ. और 3 फील्ड में पर्टिकुलरली इंस्टीट्यूट लेवल में बहुत वार स्टेज पे काम हुआ, जो कि 3 काम थे. जो कि वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस हुई बॉम्बे में, एक हम नया सीए कोर्स लेके आ रहे हैं, और टेक्नोलॉजिकली चेंजेस. वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस जो कि ओलंपिक कहलाता है अकाउंट्स का, इंटरनेशनल फेडरेशन ऑफ अकाउंटेंट्स हर 4 साल में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑर्गेनाइज करता है, और एक कंट्री को एक बार ही मौका मिल पाता है उसको ऑर्गेनाइज करने का. वो 2018 में सिडनी में हुई थी और उसमें 1200 लोगों ने पार्टिसिपेट किया था. और उसके बाद नेक्स्ट जो वो कॉन्फ्रेंस करने की मेज़बान इंडिया के सी इंस्टीट्यूट को मिली थी. और जबकि कोविड साथ में चल रहा था, उस टाइम पे ही वो इतना बड़ा इवेंट था कि हमको 3 साल पहले से, 4 साल पहले से सारी वर्किंग स्टार्ट करनी जरूरी थी. वो सारी वर्किंग हम कर रहे थे साइमल्टेनियसली. और 2022 में 18 नवंबर से 21 नवंबर तक जिन लोगों ने अटेंड किया, वो एक इतिहास बना, जिसमें कि 7000 फिजिकल, 4000 वर्चुअल लोगों ने उसमें पार्टिसिपेट किया. इतना बड़ा पार्टिसिपेशन आज तक किसी भी आईफेक की कॉन्फ्रेंस में नहीं हुआ. और जिस तरह से सारे सेशंस हुए, जिस तरह से सारा ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया, जिसमें एक भी रुपया इंस्टीट्यूट का नहीं लगा था, सारा या तो मेंबरशिप से लिया था उसकी, या स्पॉन्सर से लेके उसको ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया था. इसमें आप सब लोगों का, बिकॉज इसमें सारे चार्ट अकाउंटेंट्स का हमारे देश के, उनका बहुत सहयोग रहा. स्पेशली जो प्रेसिडेंट और वाइस प्रेसिडेंट्स हमने पूरी टीम बनाई, तो हमारे पूरे इंस्टीट्यूट का बहुत एक अच्छा नाम हुआ. और कुछ इंस्टीट्यूट ऐसे थे जो कि लाइक इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सिंगापुर, उनसे हम कुछ सालों पहले से कह रहे थे कि आप हमारे साथ एमयू कर सकते हैं, और वो रेस्पॉन्स नहीं देते थे. ऐसे 4-5 इंस्टीट्यूट थे जो कि उस कॉन्फ्रेंस को अटेंड करने के बाद में वो सब लोगों ने आगे बढ़ के हमको ऑप्शन दिया हुआ है कि साहब हम आप लोगों के साथ में टाइप करना चाहते हैं, आप जिस तरह से भी अरेंजमेंट करना चाहते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, कोविड पीरियड ने एक चीज इमीडिएटली समझा थी कि आवश्यकता आविष्कार की जननी होती है, और जिस तरह से हमने अपने प्रोफेशनल वर्क को अपने घरों में बैठे हुए कंप्लीट किया, ऑडिट्स को बिना फिजिकल प्रेजेंस के कंप्लीट किया, इंस्टीट्यूट लेवल पे हमको समझ में आ गया था कि जो आने वाला टाइम है उसमें ज़रूरत है हमारे कोर्स को ड्रास्टिकली चेंज करने की। एंड बिलीव कीजिए फ्रेंड्स कि जून 2020 से करीब 100 से ज़्यादा लोग लग गए थे जो अपना पूरा इंस्टीट्यूट का कोर्स है सीए का, उसको चेंज करने की वर्किंग में। और आपसे शेयर करना चाहूँगा कि सब कुछ कंप्लीट हो चुका है, इवन एमसीए सेक्रेटरी तक से फाइल क्लियर हो चुकी है। जो हमारा नया कोर्स आने वाला है, इंट्रोड्यूस करने वाले हैं, सिर्फ फाइनेंस मैडम जो हैं फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, उनके यहाँ से अप्रूव होना है, और अप्रूव होते ही वो कोर्स पूरा का पूरा चेंज हो जाएगा, जिसमें ट्रेनिंग पीरियड स्टूडेंट्स के लिए 2 साल ही रहेगा। उसमें बहुत सारे मेजर चेंजेस हैं। जो मेजर हमने ध्यान रखा है कि जो कोर्स जो स्टडी बेस होगा, केस स्टडी बेस होगा, वो जो कंसेप्ट आज के कुछ सालों पहले होता था कि आपने किताब पढ़ी और उसको रिप्रोड्यूस कर दिया, उस कंसेप्ट को हम हटाने जा रहे हैं। हम रियलिस्टिक कोर्स को लेके आ रहे हैं, और हम बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट हैं कि आने वाला फ्यूचर हमारा और भी बहुत अच्छा होगा। अभी कुछ दिनों पहले ही सीए इंटर और फाइनल का रिजल्ट एक साथ हमने निकाला, तो बहुत सारे लोगों का फ़ोन आया कि इस बार रिजल्ट बहुत अच्छा आया है, क्या बात है। फ्रेंड्स, बिलीव कीजिए कि कुछ सालों पहले भी, 6 साल पहले ही हमने इस कोर्स को चेंज किया था। तब फाउंडेशन कोर्स को इस लेवल पे ला के रख दिया था कि आज की डेट में भी पोजीशन ये है कि जो बच्चा फाउंडेशन कोर्स क्लियर करता है, 90% चांसेस उसके ये हैं कि वो उस एग्ज़ाम को, सीए को क्लियरली करके बहुत कंफर्टेबल वे में सीए बनेगा। तीसरा फील्ड जो उस टाइम पे सारा वर्किंग चल रही थी, वो चल रही थी कि हमने हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट की वर्किंग को तो सब कुछ ऑनलाइन कर दिया है, लेकिन जो आने वाला चैलेंज है उसको हमारे मेंबर्स कैसे एक्सेप्ट करेंगे, क्या करेंगे। आपको ध्यान हो तो मार्च 2021 के एंड में एमसीए ने एक सर्कुलर निकाला कि यदि आपके क्लाइंट यदि कोई कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर है, कंपनी है, तो उसमें साल भर में जो भी चेंजेस हुए हैं उनके अकाउंट्स में, उस अकाउंटिंग ट्रेल को उसके सॉफ्टवेयर में वो आपको रिपोर्ट करनी है। वो सर्कुलर को 2 साल के लिए पोस्टपोन किया गया, लेकिन इन सारी चीज़ें को देखते, इन सारी पोजीशंस को देखते हुए इंस्टीट्यूट लेवल पे हमने इमीडिएटली एक्शन लिया। बिकॉज फ्रेंड्स, बिलीव कीजिए, जो आने वाला टाइम है, अब सैंपल ऑडिट कभी ख़त्म हो चुकी, 100% ऑडिट का टाइम है, और सिस्टम ऑडिट, फॉरेंसिक ऑडिट सर्वाइव करेगी। उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए इंस्टीट्यूट लेवल पे हमने बहुत बड़ा बजट रखा हुआ है। करीब 100 करोड़ रुपए हम इस चीज़ पे खर्च कर रहे हैं कि हमारे मेंबर को उस पर अपडेट कर दें, और उसमें हम 4 सॉफ्टवेयर इमीडिएटली हमारे मेंबर्स के लिए लेके आ रहे हैं। एक ऑफिस मैनेजमेंट है, एक ऑडिट टूल है, डेटा एनालिटिक्स है, और डिजिटल लाइब्रेरी है। ये 4 सॉफ्टवेयर हम हमारे मेंबर्स के लिए लेके आ रहे हैं, और 2 सॉफ्टवेयर तो आपको इमीडिएटली विदिन 2 मंथ्स मिल जाएंगे। मैं बोलना तो बहुत कुछ चाहता था, बहुत कुछ शेयर करना चाहता था, क्योंकि बहुत दिनों बाद फिजिकली मेंबर से मिलने की अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है, लेकिन हमारे बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट और हमारे अपने संजय जी आए हुए हैं। हम चाहेंगे कि हमारे संजय जी की जो वर्किंग है, जो इनसे इंस्पिरेशन हमको मिलती है, इतने सारे मेंबर्स हैं, उनको इंस्पिरेशन मिले। मैं ज़्यादा और कुछ नहीं कहते हुए अगेन आप सब लोगों का बहुत धन्यवाद देते हुए इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में यही बताऊंगा कि हमारी कोशिश ये है कि कन्वेंशनल और नॉन कन्वेंशनल दोनों टॉपिक्स साथ रखें। मैं बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग एडवोकेसी करता हूँ नॉन कन्वेंशनल टॉपिक्स की। हमने कुछ टॉपिक इसमें कन्वेंशनल भी रखे हैं, लेकिन कोशिश उसमें भी है कि जिस गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट से रिलेटेड ऑफिशियल्स हैं उनको हमने साथ में इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में एंगेज किया है। जीएसटी में आपके साथ में जो जीएसटी ऑफिस के सीनियर ऑफिसर्स हैं वो साथ में होंगे। इनकम टैक्स में जो प्रिंसिपल कमिश्नर खुद फेसलेस असेसमेंट हैं वो हमारे साथ में होंगे। डिफरेंट फील्ड में जहाँ पे भी इस सब्जेक्ट पे हमने कोई रखा है, ऑफिशियल्स हमने साथ में रखे हैं। मैं आशा करता हूँ कि हम आप लोगों को, जो आप लोग सोच के इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में रजिस्टर्ड करा के आए हैं, हम आपको सब कुछ दे पाएंगे। और दिन भर में जो हम आपको थका देंगे डिफरेंट टेक्निकल कोर्सेज करके, रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ, आप सबको आमंत्रित करता हूँ कि शाम को एक अच्छा कल्चरल इवनिंग का प्रोग्राम भी हमने रखा है, आप सब लोगों को आना है। थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट।
Thank you so much, sir. We now request the conference co-directors, chief conveners and editorial team to please come on the stage for inauguration of the e-souvenir. I request CA Sanjay Agarwal, sir, to please do the honors. A big round of applause, everybody. You can access the souvenir by scanning the QR code. The QR code is displayed on the screen. You may scan it to access the souvenir.
Now, I request Sanjay Agarwal, sir, to enlighten the minds of this gathering. We welcome you, sir.
So thank you brother. So नमस्कार to all, happy new year. आज ही बात कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे पता है आप सब मेरे दोस्त हैं, मेरे सीनियर हैं. So thank you so much for honoring me, Prakash sir, and entire CA community, entire branch, Jaipur branch. थोड़ा मैं short of words हूँ because आपको पता है मैं जयपुर से ही हूँ और जैसे प्रकाश सर बोल रहे थे अभी कि उनको गर्व है कि मैं सीए हूँ, लेकिन मैं उससे भी ज़्यादा गर्व है कि मेरे बहुत सामने बैठे हैं अनिल सर, मैं उनका स्टूडेंट हूँ. और एक्चुअली में अनिल सर ने तो मेरे वो फॉर्म पे साइन करते थे, मेरे एक्चुअल गुरुजी तो मुकेश जी हैं. सर की यही स्टाइल होती थी कि तू यहाँ पे काम कर. तो आज मतलब बहुत सालों बाद शायद सर के सामने मैं क्या बोलूँ समझ नहीं आ रहा. मुकेश सर दोनों बैठे हैं, बट शायद मेरी ज़िंदगी का सबसे बड़ा वो एक पल था जब मैं सर से मिला 1990 में, और बहुत रॉ था, खाली क्रिकेट ही खेलता था. और जब ए.भ का जो माहौल था उस वक्त, अनिल सर का जो माहौल था, मुकेश सर का जो माहौल था, वो सुबह 8 से 8 का माहौल था कि सुबह 8 बजे आओ और रात को 8 बजे जाओ, तुम्हें सीए तो ना करना है, तुम्हें तो यहाँ काम ही करना है. तो आई थिंक वो जो माहौल बना 1990 से मेरी ज़िंदगी में, वो आज पूरे शायद 33 साल हो गए हैं, वही करता आ रहा हूँ. आज भी सुबह 8 बजे उठा था और रात को 9 ही बजेंगे. सो मुझे लगता है कि जो हमने सीखा, मतलब मैं थोड़ा सीए वाले दिन बता रहा हूँ, जब मैं सीए किया और जिस तरीके से बॉस के अंडर में ट्रेनिंग करी, जिस तरह से मैंने अपने आप को मोल्ड किया, जिस तरीके से अपने आप को डिकोड किया उस वक्त की बिजनेस क्या होता है, बिजनेसेस क्या होते हैं, बिजनेसमैन क्या होता है, रूल्स क्या होते हैं, कंप्लायंस क्या होती है, गवर्नेंस क्या होती है, ऑडिट क्या होती है, लॉ क्या होता है। और उसके बाद शायद बॉस का ही मेरे पे प्रेम था, जो उन्होंने मुझे पुश किया कि भाई तुम, जैसे मैंने उस वक्त सोचा था, मैं ऐसे ही बता रहा हूँ, आई डोंट नो ये आज के, बिकॉज मुझे प्रकाश ने एक और बात बोली है कि जब तक गवर्नर सर नहीं आते ना, तेरे को ही इनको बिजी रखना है। तो आप ये मत समझिए कि मैं गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर हूँ, मुझे उन्होंने फिट किया है अभी कि बेटे इतने इतने हम नमस्ते नहीं करते, ये तो गवर्नर साहब 11:30 निकलते ही नहीं है तो बस ठीक है, तो जितना हो सकेगा उतना आपको रोकूंगा, इसलिए मैं लंबी बात कर रहा हूँ थोड़ी सी। तो सो आई थिंक मैं व्हाट आई वांट टू टेल यू पीपल कि उस वक्त जो सीखा बॉस के साथ और उस माहौल में एज ए सीए बना मैं, उसने मुझे बहुत कॉन्फिडेंस दिया एज ए पर्सनैलिटी कि मैं कुछ बना। बिकॉज उस वक्त तो आईटी और ये एमबीए तो बहुत कम कोर्स होते थे, या तो आप आईएएस बनिए या आप बहुत अच्छे कॉलेज से इंजीनियरिंग करिए, डॉक्टर बनिए, और उसके बाद आपका सीए का कोर्स आता था और बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता था। ऐसा नहीं है मैं कोई पहली बार में पास नहीं हुआ हूँ। और एक और डेटा बताता हूँ, वैसे तो पता नहीं सर को, सर और मैं हमेशा डिबेट होती रहती है। मुझे लगता है मैं इव.भ कंपनी का पहला चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हूँ। उससे पहले इव.भ कंपनी में सीए बनते ही नहीं थे, मैंने आके बनाना चालू किया। और दूसरा एक और है, पता नहीं वो रिकॉर्ड भी आज तक मेंटेन नहीं है कि आप सोच रहे मेरी तारीफ करूंगा, लेकिन करूंगा क्योंकि बॉस बैठे हैं, क्योंकि उन्होंने करी नहीं मेरी, कि मैं उनका मेरिट होल्डर चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट था। पता नहीं अभी बने नहीं बने आज तक। सर ऐसे मत बताओ, ऐसे बन गए, ऐसे कैसे बन गए? आपके होते हुए कोई बन सकता है? तो सुबह 8 से 8 सो आई थिंक वो तो सीए बने और पता नहीं कैसे मेरिट में आ गए। और अनिल सर ने ही पुश किया। जैसे मैंने अनिल सर को एक बात बोली कि सर देखिए, आप कुछ भी मैं करूंगा, 2 काम तो नहीं करूंगा। पहला, मैं मुकेश जी के साथ ऑडिट पे नहीं जाऊंगा, और दूसरा, आपके साथ कोई प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंस का काम नहीं करूंगा। अब बताओ क्या करना है। तो आई थिंक उस जमाने में बॉस बॉम्बे बहुत जाते थे, और मैं शायद आगे बता पाऊंगा कि क्यों आपको इंस्पिरेशन चाहिए, क्यों आपको संगत चाहिए। तो बॉस बॉम्बे बहुत जाते थे, और जब भी बॉम्बे से ऑफिस आते थे उनके पास एक ही नाम होता था। जैसे जैसे ऑफिस में घुसते थे, संजय कहाँ है, तो मैं ही सर के पास बैठता था, जाता था, और वहीं से पूरी ये जो लैंडिंग की जो सोच थी, मैं नहीं कहूँगा कि मेरी ओरिजिनल सोच थी, बॉस की ओरिजिनल सोच थी, और मैंने उसको एग्जीक्यूट किया। और फिर अगले 15-17 साल हमने लैंडिंग का काम किया, और इतना बेवकूफ़ी पर डिसीजन था बॉस का कि यार पैसे तो थे नहीं और काम करना है लैंडिंग का। तो बस यही चक्कर है हम सीईओ में कि कुछ होता तो कुछ है नहीं, लेकिन बड़ी बड़ी बात जरूर कर लेते हैं। और फिर धीरे धीरे मतलब ऑनेस्टली पैसा था ही नहीं, बिकॉज बॉस भी प्रैक्टिस करते थे, मेरे पिताजी भी गवर्नमेंट में थे, तो मनी तो था ही नहीं एक्चुअली हाथ में। बट कैसे ना कैसे करके विचार थे, बिजनेस मॉडल था जो भी बात कर रहे थे हम लोग, और बहुत रियलिस्टिक बिजनेस मॉडल था। और मुझे लगता है 96-97 में जो इंडिया था वो बहुत अलग था, और मुझे लगता है आज जो हम देख रहे हैं 2020 में इंडिया को, वो दोनों बहुत सिमिलर हैं। जो उस वक्त जो अपॉर्चुनिटी आ रही थी अबाउट इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर, बैंकिंग सेक्टर, टेलीकॉम, इवन आईटी सेक्टर, वो सब 5-6 सेक्टर उसी वक्त आ रहे थे। उस वक्त इतना ज्ञान नहीं होता था, लेकिन आज लगता है कि उस वक्त आ रहे थे वो सेक्टर। आज तो बहुत ज़्यादा नॉलेज का डिसमिनेट होता है, लोग जानते हैं, समझते हैं, उस हिसाब से उस चीज़ों को बनाया गया। बट वो स्टोरी अलग है, वो बहुत लंबी स्टोरी है, वो नहीं बता पाऊँगा आज। लेकिन वन थिंग लेड टू अनदर, और मुझे लगता है कि एज ए चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जो मुझे सीखने को मिला उस वक्त, वो था बैलेंस शीट मैनेजमेंट। आज मैं बहुत सारे बिजनेसेस को फंड करता हूँ, बहुत सारे बिजनेसमैन को मिलता हूँ, तो मुझे जो कमी दिखती है कई बार सिस्टम में, कि वो दिखता है कि उनको अपने बिजनेस की जो मैथमेटिक्स है वो कम आती है। और जो मैं चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बना तो मुझे वो बहुत सॉलिडली आती थी कि मैं अपनी बैलेंस शीट को कैसे देख रहा हूँ, कैसे बना रहा हूँ, कैसे लेवरेज कर रहा हूँ, कब कैपिटल लेके आ रहा हूँ, कैपिटल पर रिटर्न कब दूंगा, कैसे बात करेंगे। तो आई थिंक मैं सीए इंस्टीट्यूट का बहुत आभारी हूँ कि मुझे उन्होंने चुना कि मैं सीए बना, और वहाँ से मैं आज जो भी बना, मुझे लगता है मेरी पढ़ाई का उसमें बहुत बड़ा योगदान है। और इस तरह की कॉन्फ्रेंसेस उस वक्त तो होती नहीं थी, लेकिन मुझे लगता है नॉलेज से बड़ा कोई काम नहीं होता। जितनी नॉलेज आपको मिले, बिकॉज कई बार हम सीए बनने के बाद नॉलेज हम ले ही नहीं पाते हैं, बट मुझे लगता है ऐसी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस श्रेयान जैसी कॉन्फ्रेंसेज जो शायद बहुत गैप के बाद आज बनाई जा रही है, मैं आशा रखता हूं कि आप सब लोग इसका पूरा, मुझे लगता है कि काफ़ी learned people will come here and talk about the relevant topics जो आपके लिए बहुत relevant होंगे business में, practice में, you know, wherever you want to apply it. But important है ये, शायद हमको थोड़ा focus होके समझ के align करना पड़ेगा उससे, और it will benefit you in my opinion. So I wish this conference a very good about the whole outcome. हमारा support हमेशा रहेगा. मैं जयपुर का हूँ, और प्रकाश सर एक और बात बोलना चाहूँगा, इस आज प्लेटफॉर्म दिया है आपने, कि मुझे पता है बैंक तो एक अपने लेवल पे है, और बैंक जितना कर पाएगा उसके कुछ नियम होते हैं, कुछ कानून होते हैं. सर आ गए क्या? मेरा टाइम खत्म हो रहा है शायद. तो आई थिंक वो जितना भी आप हमसे, मेरा पर्सनल भी, मैं चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हूँ, वहीं का हूँ, तो इंस्टीट्यूट को कुछ भी चाहिए हो सर, ब्रांच को कुछ भी चाहिए हो, मेरा समय और मेरा व्यक्तिगत पैसा दोनों अवेलेबल हैं, सो दैट इस इंस्टीट्यूट और CEO को मैं बना पाऊँ. और मुझे लगता है कि सर थोड़ा सा हमको आज के चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को एक ही मैसेज है कि ट्रांसपेरेंसी पे ध्यान रखिए प्लीज़, ट्रस्ट बनाइए, गवर्नेंस बनाइए, बिकॉज इसके बिना कुछ नहीं होने वाला. जो जैसा हो रहा था वैसे आगे नहीं होएगा, जैसा हो रहा था, जैसा चल रहा था वैसे आगे नहीं होने वाला है. हमको कंप्लायंट रहना ही पड़ेगा, हमको गवर्न रहना ही पड़ेगा, वही स्टोरी है सारी. और मैं आपकी सबकी तरफ से गवर्नर साहब का भी स्वागत करता हूँ. You want to say? Okay.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, sir. With immense pleasure, हम आप सभी को सूचित करना चाहते हैं कि माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय श्री कलराज मिश्र जी आज के इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में पधार चुके हैं. आप सभी से निवेदन है कि कृपया अपने अपने स्थान पर खड़े हो जाएं.
We welcome you, sir. We request all of you to please stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा. विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा. तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मांगे. गाहे तव जय गाथा. जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
For those who are all standing, we have seats available upstairs. Please take your seats. अब मैं माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय से निवेदन करती हूं कि वे कृपया माता सरस्वती की प्रतिमा पर पुष्प अर्पण करें.
थैंक यू सर. अब मैं माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय से निवेदन करना चाहूंगा कि वे भारतीय संविधान की प्रस्तावना व एक भारतीय नागरिक के मूल कर्तव्यों का वर्णन करें. आप सभी से निवेदन है कि अपने अपने स्थानों पर खड़े हो जाएं. माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय जी.
मैं उद्देश्य का पढ़ूंगा, इसको दोहराएंगे. हम भारत के लोग भारत को एक संपूर्ण प्रभुत्व संपन्न, समाजवादी, पंथ निरपेक्ष, लोकतंत्रात्मक गणराज्य बनाने के लिए तथा उसके समस्त नागरिकों को सामाजिक, आर्थिक और राजनीतिक न्याय, विचार, अभिव्यक्ति, विश्वास, धर्म उपासना की स्वतंत्रता, प्रतिष्ठा और अवसर की समता प्राप्त कराने के लिए तथा उन सब में व्यक्ति की गरिमा और राष्ट्र की एकता और अखंडता सुनिश्चित करने वाली बंधुता बढ़ाने के लिए दृढ़ संकल्प होकर अपनी संविधान सभा में आज तारीख 26 नवंबर 1949 ईस्वी मिति मार्गशीर्ष शुक्ल सप्तमी संवत 2006 विक्रमी को एतद द्वारा इस संविधान को अंगीकृत, अधिनियमित और आत्मार्पित करते हैं। ये मूल कर्तव्य पढ़ूंगा, इसको दोहराएंगे नहीं, सुनेंगे। अनुच्छेद 51 का मूल कर्तव्य, भारत के प्रत्येक नागरिक का यह कर्तव्य होगा कि वह एक, संविधान का पालन करे और उसके आदर्शों, संस्थाओं, राष्ट्रध्वज और राष्ट्रगान का आदर करे। 2, स्वतंत्रता के लिए हमारे राष्ट्रीय आंदोलन को प्रेरित करने वाले उच्च आदर्शों को हृदय में संजोए रखे और उनका पालन करे। 3, भारत की प्रभुता, एकता और अखंडता की रक्षा करे और उसे अक्षुण्ण रखे। 4, देश की रक्षा करे और आह्वान किए जाने पर राष्ट्र की सेवा करे। 5, भारत के सभी लोगों में समरसता और समान भ्रातृत्व की भावना का निर्माण करे, जो धर्म, भाषा और प्रदेश या वर्ग पर आधारित सभी भेदभाव से परे हो। ऐसी प्रथाओं का त्याग करे जो स्त्रियों के सम्मान के विरुद्ध हैं। 6, हमारी सामाजिक संस्कृति की गौरवशाली परंपरा का महत्व समझे और उसका परिरक्षण करे। 7, प्राकृतिक पर्यावरण की, जिसके अंतर्गत वन, झील, नदी और वन्य जीव हैं, रक्षा करे और उसका संवर्धन करे तथा प्राणी मात्र के प्रति दया भाव रखे। 8, वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण, मानववाद और ज्ञान अर्जन तथा सुधार की भावना का विकास करे। 9, सार्वजनिक संपत्ति को सुरक्षित रखे और हिंसा से दूर रहे। 10, व्यक्तिगत और सामूहिक गतिविधियों के सभी क्षेत्रों में उत्कर्ष की ओर बढ़ने का सतत प्रयास करे, जिससे राष्ट्र निरंतर बढ़ते हुए प्रयत्न और उपलब्धि की नई ऊंचाइयों को छू ले। 11, जो माता पिता या संरक्षक हो वह 6 से 14 वर्ष के बीच की आय के यथास्थिति अपने बच्चे अथवा प्रतिपाल्य को शिक्षा प्राप्त करने के अवसर प्रदान करेगा। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. I would request those who are standing, please take your seats upstairs. अब मैं सीए अनिल कुमार यादव सर और सीए अंकुर कुमार गुप्ता सर से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी कि वे स्टेज पर आए और माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय को ग्रीन प्लांट प्रस्तुत करें।
अब मैं सीए नवीन शर्मा सर और सीए विकास यादव सर से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगा कि वे साफा पहनाकर माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय का अभिवादन करें।
अब मैं सीए रुचि गुप्ता मैम और सीए विजय कुमार अग्रवाल सर से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगी कि वे माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय को शॉल ओढ़ाकर सम्मानित करें।
अब मैं सीए प्रकाश शर्मा सर और सीए कुलदीप गुप्ता सर से अनुरोध करना चाहूंगा कि वे माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय को स्मृति चिन्ह भेंट करें। अब मैं इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के निदेशक सीए प्रकाश शर्मा सर से आग्रह करूंगा कि वे आएं और माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय के स्वागत में 2 शब्द कहें।
respected Honorable Governor of Rajasthan and Chief Guest of today, Kalraj Mishra ji, our guest of honor, Sanjay ji, my other team. Friends, सर के आज बहुत टाइट शेड्यूल थे और 3 बैक टू बैक मीटिंग्स थी। हमने सर को जाके रिक्वेस्ट किया कि सर ये 3 साल बाद हमारी कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रही है और हमको आपकी ब्लेसिंग्स चाहिए। तो हमारी रिक्वेस्ट को एक्सेप्ट करते हुए सर ने अपनी जो मीटिंग्स थी उनको रीशेड्यूल किया और हमको टाइम दिया। आज हमारे सामने है। हम तहे दिल से आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत और धन्यवाद करते हैं कि आपने हमको ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट टाइम दिया। सर मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि सी इंस्टीट्यूट पार्लियामेंट एक्ट के अंतर्गत बना हुआ है और हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट पे एमसीए मिनिस्ट्री का कंट्रोल है, उनके अंडर में आते हैं। हमारा कोई भी मेजर डिसीजन हमारे पार्लियामेंट एक्ट के थ्रू पास होता है और गवर्नमेंट के साथ हम कंधे से कंधा मिला के बहुत सारे काम करते हैं। पर्टिकुलरली पिछले 2 सालों से हमको एमसीए मिनिस्ट्री ने बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट काम ये दिया हुआ है कि जो डिफरेंट गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिशियल्स हैं और उनमें जो फाइनेंस मैटर से रिलेटेड जो भी इश्यूज़ हैं उनके लिए गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिशियल्स को आप ट्रेनिंग दीजिए, उनको एजुकेट कीजिए। उस रेफरेंस में सर आपको शेयर करना चाहूँगा कि जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिसर्स को पिछले 2 सालों में हमने करीब 800 से ज़्यादा डिफरेंट सेमिनार कॉन्फ्रेंसेस करके प्योरली जो गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिशियल्स हैं उनको हम ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, उनको हम एजुकेट करते हैं। पिछले 3 महीनों में हम 2 बार जयपुर में, एक बार तो जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट के जो टॉप 20 क्लाइंट्स थे उनको जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट के बिहाफ पे बुला के उनको हमने एजुकेट किया है और दूसरी कॉन्फ्रेंस में हमने जो जीएसटी डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिशियल्स हैं उन्होंने जो टॉपिक्स बताए उन पे हमने उनको एजुकेट किया है। एक और बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट जिम्मेदारी हमको गवर्नमेंट ने दी हुई है। अभी कुछ ही दिनों पहले गवर्नमेंट की नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है और उस पॉलिसी में अब इंस्टीट्यूट का बहुत बड़ा रोल रहने जा रहा है। जो 11th और 12th में जो कॉमर्स के जो सब्जेक्ट्स होंगे उसमें इंस्टीट्यूट को गवर्नमेंट ने इन्वॉल्व किया है। हम इंस्टीट्यूट लेवल पे उनको सजेस्ट करेंगे कि कॉमर्स में सब्जेक्ट में जो है कॉमर्स के सब्जेक्ट्स उसमें क्या कंटेंट्स होने चाहिए, क्या सब्जेक्ट होना चाहिए। जो गवर्नमेंट ने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉलिसी एक और बनाई है कि जो बच्चा ग्रेजुएशन करेगा उसका 4 साल का कोर्स होगा और उसमें 1 साल उसको ट्रेनिंग लेनी है। फ्रेंड्स, आपसे सबसे शेयर करके ये अपन लोगों के लिए एक बहुत अच्छी बात है कि बहुत हाई लेवल पे ये बात चल रही है कि जो कॉमर्स में ग्रेजुएशन बच्चा कर रहा होगा वो 1 साल की ट्रेनिंग करने के लिए अपने प्रैक्टिसिंग चार्ट अकाउंटेंट्स के पास ट्रेनिंग लेने आएगा। और जस्ट इस 6 और 7 जनवरी को जो इंडिया के एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर्स हैं उनके साथ में अपने इंस्टीट्यूट ने दिल्ली में अभी एक प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज किया था जिसमें कि 132 डिफरेंट यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के वीसीज थे और जो बीकॉम का भी जो कोर्स है वो हमारा इंस्टीट्यूट उनको सजेस्ट करेगा कि उस कोर्स को कैसे डिज़ाइन करना चाहिए, उसमें क्या कंटेंट्स होने चाहिए, कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट करने चाहिए। सर मैं ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा आपका और बस यही अगेन वापस आपकी ब्लेसिंग्स के लिए, आपकी उपस्थिति के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक्स अ लॉट।
थैंक यू सर। अब मैं माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय से निवेदन करना चाहूंगी कि वे कृपया इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को संबोधित कर हमें अनुग्रहित करें। सभी उपस्थित प्रोफेशनल से रिक्वेस्ट है कि तालियों की गड़गड़ाहट से माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय का स्वागत करें।
द इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट ऑफ इंडिया द्वारा आयोजित राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन श्रेयान में उपस्थित श्री प्रकाश शर्मा जी निदेशक, श्री संजय अग्रवाल जी एमडी एंड EU स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक, श्री कुलदीप गुप्ता जी अध्यक्ष जयपुर शाखा, सुश्री रुचि गुप्ता जी सचिव जयपुर शाखा, देश भर से आए हुए CA महानुभावगण, सभागार में उपस्थित अन्य महानुभाव, पत्रकार मित्रों, छायाकार बंधुओं, यह बहुत सुखद है कि आपकी इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में देश की अर्थव्यवस्था से जुड़े महती मुद्दों पर विभिन्न तकनीकी सत्रों में विशद विमर्श की पहल की गई है। मैं ये मानता हूं कि चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हमारे देश में आज सबसे सम्मानित और विशिष्ट प्रोफेशनल हैं। इसके प्रति बहुत अधिक आकर्षण है और इसका कारण यह है कि प्रत्यक्ष अप्रत्यक्ष कर नियोजन के साथ ही व्यवसाय से जुड़े लेखा कार्यों के अपने मूल्यांकन कार्य के साथ वह देश के इस अर्थतंत्र को सशक्त करने का कार्य भी इस व्यवसाय के जरिए करते हैं। आपके यहाँ आने से पहले इस इंस्टीट्यूट का जो आदर्श वाक्य है उस पर विचार करता रहा हूं। यह बहुत ही अर्थगर्भित और सुंदर है। यह ए सुप्तेषु जागर्ति, अर्थात सोए हुए हुओं के बीच भी जागते रहने वाला, ये बहुत ही सतत चिंतन करने वाला वाक्य है। लोगों को जागरूक रखकर अपने क्षेत्र में किस तरीके से सारी चीजों को व्यवस्थित किया जा सकता है, इससे संबंधित ये वाक्य है। और इसलिए मैं कह सकता हूं यह वाक्य लगातार प्रेरणा प्रदान करने वाला वाक्य है, लोगों को प्रेरित करता रहेगा। असल में एक कठोपनिषद के मंत्र का एक अंश है। पूरे मंत्र को पढ़ेंगे तो जो अर्थ निकलेगा वह यह है कि जब सारी प्रकृति और सृष्टि सो जाती है तब भी ईश्वर परब्रह्म जागता रहता है। वह जो नानाविध कामनाओं की सृष्टि करते हुए सोते हुए में जागता रहता है वही ब्रह्म है। कितना सुंदर आदर्श वाक्य है। मैं चाहता हूं इस अपने आदर्श वाक्य को गहराई से समझते हुए इससे सदा आप जुड़े रहें। यह बात मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि आपका कार्य, व्यवसाय और आर्थिक क्रियाकलाप का सूक्ष्म अंकेक्षण है। माने कहीं कोई गलती रह जाती है, कुछ ऐसा है जिसे पूरा नहीं किया गया है, तो उसके बारे में ध्यानाकर्षण करना, ध्यानाकर्षण ही नहीं करना बल्कि उससे जुड़ी ऐसी राय देना जिससे संबंधित सही राह पर चल सके, उसका सभी स्तरों पर फायदा हो। आप सभी अंकेक्षण ज्ञान से जुड़े हुए हैं। आर्थिक क्षेत्र में जो कुछ हो रहा है उसका मूल्यांकन करने वाले। स्वाभाविक ही है, नियम कानूनों के बारे में सजग करते हुए देश के अर्थतंत्र को मजबूत करने की महती भूमिका भी आप सभी की ही है। फर्म, व्यवसाय से जुड़े आय करों, GST, अन्य सभी प्रकार के नियम कानूनों की पालना कराने का कार्य आपका है। मैं तो बल्कि यह भी मानता हूं कि देश के बुनियादी ढांचे के विकास में भी आपकी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। टैक्स प्लानिंग, कैपिटल बस्टिंग, बजट पूर्वानुमान, वित्त पोषण आदि बहुत से ऐसे कार्य हैं जिनके निर्धारण में आपके सुझाव बहुत महत्वपूर्ण होते हैं। केंद्र और राज्य सरकारों द्वारा सार्वजनिक क्षेत्र में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण योजनाओं का क्रियान्वयन जनहित में किया जाता है। ऐसी योजनाओं में बड़ी मात्रा में धन व्यय होता है। धन का कैसे समुचित रूप में पारदर्शी तरीके से व्यय हो, कैसे जनता की राशि का उनके हित में अधिकाधिक सदुपयोग हो, इसके लिए आपका अंकेक्षण बहुत महत्व रखता है। मैं ये भी मानता हूं कि आम आयकरदाता को भी आयकर रिटर्न के लिए आप लोग जो सलाह देते हैं, उसमें आयकर के जरिए अपनी कमाई के नियमानुसार प्रबंधन के लिए आप एक तरह से प्रेरित करते हैं। यह जरूरी भी है। इस समय लेखा अंकेक्षण के अंतर्गत एक महत्वपूर्ण पहलू और जो जुड़ा है वह है व्यवसायों द्वारा पर्यावरण मानकों एवं सामाजिक सहभागिता अंकेक्षण। बड़े व्यवसाय जो हैं उनको CSR के लिए भी सहभागिता निभानी होती है। माने अपनी आय का आंशिक हिस्सा उन्हें समाज सेवा और अन्य कल्याण कार्यों के लिए व्यय करना होता है। मैं चाहता हूं इस दिशा में ऐसे सुझाव आप लोगों की ओर से फर्म, व्यावसायिक संगठनों, कंपनियों को दिए जाएं, जिनमें CSR के तहत ऐसे अछूते क्षेत्रों में कार्य हो सके जिनकी समाज को आवश्यकता है। शिक्षा प्रसार के अंतर्गत वंचितों को गुणवत्ता की शिक्षा और साधन उपलब्ध कराने, बेहतर स्वास्थ्य सुविधाओं के लिए योगदान देने जैसे क्षेत्रों में कैसे सरकारी क्षेत्र के साथ निजी क्षेत्र की भी प्रभावी भूमिका हो, इस पर भी आप सभी को अपनी सक्रिय भूमिका निभाने की जरूरत है। जैसे हमारे पूर्ववक्ता जो बोल रहे थे, जो हमारे स्वागत में अपनी बात रखे, उन्होंने अपने उद्बोधन में कहा जो नई शिक्षा नीति है उस पर अपने विचार व्यक्त करने के लिए उनको कहा गया है। उसका विशेष अध्ययन करते हुए कैसे आप सब लोग उस संबंध में अच्छा विचार दे सकते हैं, ये बात कही गई है। मैं समझता हूं इस दिशा में भी आप लोगों को व्यवस्थित तौर पर विचार करने की आवश्यकता है और निश्चित रूप से जो आपके सुझाव होंगे नई शिक्षा नीति के लिए बड़े उपयोगी और सारगर्भित होंगे। मैं समझता हूं समाज हित में ऐसे प्रयासों को CSR के तहत कैसे प्रभावी रूप में गति दी जाए, इस पर आपके इस सम्मेलन में पृथक से चर्चा होनी चाहिए। आयकर और दूसरे वित्तीय नियम कानूनों के बारे में भी हमारे यहाँ बहुत अधिक जागरूकता नहीं है। एक बड़ा कार्य CA प्रोफेशन से जुड़े लोगों का यह भी है कि वे देश के नियम कानूनों के प्रति सचेत करने में भी महती भूमिका का निर्वाह करते हैं। फिर से आपके इस आदर्श वाक्य की ओर लौटता हूं, यह एष सुप्तेषु जागृति, अर्थात सोए हुओं के बीच जागने वालों में से आप हैं। स्वाभाविक ही है कि जहां अवेयरनेस नहीं है वहां लोगों को अवेयर भी करने की जिम्मेदारी आप सभी लोगों की बनती है। इस दिशा में भी सक्रिय होकर भूमिका निभानी चाहिए। यह समय सूचना और प्रौद्योगिकी, संचार प्रौद्योगिकी का है और आप जिस प्रोफेशन में हैं उसका संपूर्ण कार्य ही अब डिजिटल हो गया है। बहुत कुछ सरल भी हुआ है तो चुनौतियां भी बढ़ी हैं। आयकर और GST से जुड़े नियमों की पालना कराने की बड़ी जिम्मेदारी CA प्रोफेशनल्स की ही होती है। मैं यह भी मानता हूं कि CA हमारे देश के अर्थव्यवस्था की रीढ़ है और वित्तीय विशेषज्ञता के साथ देश की अर्थव्यवस्था को मजबूत करने और उद्योगों के बढ़ने के साथ अर्थव्यवस्था को उसके जरिए सशक्त करने की महती जिम्मेदारी आप लोगों की ही है। कैसे विभिन्न वित्तीय और आर्थिक उपायों को सही दिशा मिले, हमारा अर्थतंत्र सुदृढ़ हो, इस पर सभी मिलकर प्रयास करें। यह हम सभी के लिए सौभाग्य और गौरव की बात है कि भारत को G20 की अध्यक्षता का अवसर मिला है। विश्व भर में इससे हमारे देश की साख बढ़ी है। आज विश्व की आर्थिक महाशक्तियों में भी हमारा देश तेजी से शुमार हो रहा है। ऐसे समय में जीएसटी, फोरेंसिक अंकेक्षण आज से जुड़े तमाम कार्यों में कानून की मर्यादाओं में रहकर कार्य करने, नियमों का पालन कराने और पारदर्शिता रखते हुए औद्योगिक विकास के साथ देश के विकास में आप सभी अपना योगदान दें। यही इस समय की सबसे बड़ी आवश्यकता है। चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट को चाहिए कि नियमों और विनियमों का पालन कराने के साथ ही गलत प्रथाओं और उनके आपराधिक परिणामों की ओर ध्यान आकर्षित कर भ्रष्टाचार को कम करने में भी यह अपना सक्रिय योगदान दे। ये बहुत आवश्यक है। इस पर मैं जोर देकर कह रहा हूं कि आप लोग चाहें तो भ्रष्टाचार एकदम कम हो सकता है, समाप्त तो नहीं मैं कह सकता, लेकिन कम हो सकता है। इस दिशा में आपको ज्यादा प्रयास करने की आवश्यकता है। वैश्वीकरण के इस दौर में वित्तीय कराधान, शेयर बाजार और कॉरपोरेट कानून मामलों में विदेशी मुद्रा और अन्य में आज आप सभी के अनुभव और ज्ञान की बहुत अधिक आवश्यकता है। इस आलोक में आप राष्ट्र विकास में महती भूमिका निभाने के लिए इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में विशद विमर्श कर देश की अर्थव्यवस्था को सुदृढ़ करने के लिए नई राहों का निर्माण करेंगे, ऐसा में मुझे पूरा विश्वास है। ये पूरे दिन का सम्मेलन निश्चित रूप से विभिन्न विषयों पर जो आप विमर्श करेंगे, विमर्श के माध्यम से जो निष्कर्ष निकलेगा, निश्चित ही हमारे यहाँ के अर्थतंत्र को सुदृढ़ करने में सहयोगी होगा, ऐसा मेरा पूरा विश्वास है। आपने मुझे इस अवसर पर अपने इस कार्यक्रम में बुलाया और बुलाकर मेरे अपने विचार व्यक्त करने का अवसर प्रदान किया। इसके लिए मैं आयोजकों के प्रति बहुत आभारी हूं, उनको धन्यवाद देता हूं। और आप लोग भी बड़े ही धैर्य के साथ हमारी बात को सुने। मैं समझता हूं कि निश्चित रूप से आपको जो भी हमारी बात उपयोगी लगी हो, उस दिशा में अपने आचरण और व्यवहार को करने में किसी भी प्रकार का संकोच नहीं करेंगे, ऐसा मेरा पूरा विश्वास है। यही बात कहकर मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
इन आशीर्वचनों के लिए हम सभी की ओर से माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय जी को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
अब मैं सीए रुचि गुप्ता मैम से निवेदन करना चाहूंगी कि वे धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करें।
Respected Honorable Governor of Rajasthan, Shri Kalraj Mishra ji, our guest of honor Sanjay Agarwal ji, our all CCM and Program Director Prakash Sharma ji, Chairman Jaipur Branch Kuldeep Gupta ji, entire management committee member, our mentors, and of course the all conference team. I welcome you all in 2 days National Conference for CA members SHREYAN. सबसे पहले मैं ये बोलना चाहूँगी, क्योंकि हमारे बहुत सारे गेस्ट बाहर से आए हैं, तो मैं सबका वेलकम करना चाहूँगी बाय सेइंग पधारो म्हारे संग। थैंक यू एवरीवन फॉर योर प्रेजेंस। डाइस में बैठे हुए डिग्नेटरीज से पहले मैं थैंक यू बोलना चाहूँगी उन सब मेंबर्स का जो यहाँ पे आए हैं ऑन अ बिजी डे, ऑन अ वीक डे। थैंक यू एवरीवन। कोई भी कॉन्फ्रेंस, कोई भी प्रोग्राम तभी सक्सेसफुल होता है जब उसमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग जुड़ते हैं, एंड वी कैन सी अ जेम पैक्ड कॉन्फ्रेंस हॉल दिस हियर। सो आई थैंक यू ऑल फॉर योर प्रेजेंस टुडे। नाउ आई वुड लाइक टू थैंक यू आवर गवर्नर सर for coming here and gracing the event. I now thank you, our guest of honor, Sanjay Agarwal sir, for coming over and sharing speech which motivates all of us being CAs. I thank all the members, all the committee team, all the conference people, all the staff who is working day and night for this conference. Thank you, everyone.
I now request everyone to please stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
I request everyone to be seated.
With this, let us move ahead to the second technical session of the conference.
Parivartanamev sthiramasti. Change is the only constant.
Shivangi, have you noticed the changes in the ways in which we live our daily life? Earlier, we used to give vocal directions to reach to a particular location, लेकिन अब तो लोकेशन शेयरिंग से ही काम हो जाता है. पहले तो मम्मी बताया करती थी कि बेटा आज शायद बारिश होगी तो छाता ले जाना, लेकिन अब तो सिरी बता देती है कि प्लीज कैरी एन अम्ब्रेला.
Manas, not just our personal lives. The development in technology has spread its branches to our professional lives as well. Assignments like audit cannot be conducted without being technologically equipped. और अब तो सीए जर्नल भी इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली रिसीव हो जाती है.
So true. A tremendous transformation has already been witnessed by all of us in our personal as well as professional lives. And they say, पिक्चर तो अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त. तो लेट्स नो कि कितनी पिक्चर बाकी है और कितनी पिक्चर हो चुकी है. In our second technical session, digital transformation, a threat or an opportunity for CAs. We would like to request the chief convener of the conference, CA Vikas Yadav sir and CA Naveen Sharma sir, to please come on the stage.
I request everyone to please take their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. I request all the professionals to please take your seats. Now I would request CA Ankur Gupta sir to please escort our session speaker CA Anil Satyanarayan Bhandari sir to the dais. We welcome you Anil sir on the stage. CA Anil Bhandari sir is the founder of A&B, a leading risk advisory firm with more than 700 professionals. He has also been the chairman of WIRC of ICAI and president of Institute of Internal Auditors. At present, he is serving as a member of the tribunal under the CA Act by MCA and therein hears disciplinary cases all across India. He is also an ardent international speaker, technology innovator and a dreamer.
May I now request CA Vikas Yadav sir to present a bouquet to Anil sir.
Now I request CA Ankur Gupta sir and CA Naveen Sharma sir to present mementos to Anil sir.
With this, we request Anil sir to mark the beginning of the second technical session of the conference. Over to you, sir.
I once again request everybody to please take their seats.
चलेगा ना? नहीं, आ जाना चाहिए. Project this. So a very good afternoon to all leaders of the profession. My dear friend Prakash Agarwal ji, I don't see him here, but it's a fantastic conference after a long time, and it is also good to see faces of chartered accountants other than being on Zoom. My colleague in the council in the last term, Satish ji, good to see you after a long time. Thank you for taking out your time here today. I've been introduced as the chairman of the Western India region. I was the central council member for 2 terms. What people don't know about me is I'm also an innovator of a cybersecurity product, and I mentor the cybersecurity product. And this has purely come because I spend a lot of time in trying to upskilling myself. So I will talk to you about all of those. But the first thing that I would want to bring to your attention is something that I speak to students about. And interestingly, this is the first lesson that I've had in my life, and that has stuck to me for so long, and it has helped me to evolve as a professional. Today, being appointed by MCA as a member of the tribunal, every day in the morning from 10 to 12, I tend to hear cases of disciplinary matters of chartered accountants, and sometimes it pains me for the fact that we get under the bus for a very small deed that ideally we could have avoided, we could have done it better, and so on and so forth, which also I would like to draw and talk about, because that is an experience that I carry for the last 1 year, and it has been a learning experience for myself. Before I do all of that, let me try and share a small story with all of you, which like I said, I would love to share, I like to share with students. So, you know, when you're in school, you want to work very hard and get admissions in the best possible colleges. That unfortunately is the way that the education system in India is evolved over a period of so many years. We all want to excel in our SSC, get admissions in colleges, which are one of the best colleges, and so on and so forth. So in Mumbai, I too had a dream, and I studied very hard for my 10th standard, got the desired percentages that I had to get into one of the best colleges, Narsi Monji College in Mumbai. I stay pretty close, so I had this desire of getting into Narsi Monji College. And during those times, there was no technology, which means you had to literally stand in a queue, and the queue was a day long, overnight, for 24 hours. So you go and stand in the queue in the night, And typically, next day in the morning, you get your chance to get into the college and figure out if you get an admission or not. So I happened to go and stand in the queue 30 hours before, and there was a huge queue already, and there was this cute-looking girl standing right in front of me. So I went and stood behind her, started to chat with her. And when came morning, and when came our turn to get into the college for an admission, the doors of the college were shut, said admissions are over. And I would have cried my heart out that day, going back home, thinking that, look, you know, I've lost it all. I worked so hard. I got my mark sheets. I got my degrees. And I did not get my admission. Somebody after 3 days came up and told me that, hey, you know what? I used to play a little-known sport called hockey during those times. I'm not sure if all of you are acquainted with hockey any longer or not, but it used to be a fantastic, and it is a fantastic sport. I used to be captain of my hockey team. So somebody said, why don't you apply through a sports quota? And I had no idea there was something called a sports quota. So I applied it. I got my admissions in the sports quota in Nursi Bonji College. When I went to my classroom, the first thing that I see is that cute-looking girl sitting there. She had already got her admission somehow. And I go and sit behind her. Incidentally, she happens to be my wife today. Well, I don't know whether I would clap for it today or not, but yeah, those were some good times. So I learned 2 lessons that day. And the first one is very important, which has stuck to me all throughout my life. Degrees, certificates, and degrees that you study don't matter, skills matter. I repeat, degrees just don't matter, skills matter. And incidentally, I was successful in getting in this college because I had the requisite skill to be in that college for whatever reason. Second is, of course, don't fall for cute girls because you'll end up marrying them. But that incidentally is not the point. So how does this stick to me throughout my life? The first thing that I wanted to do, like any chartered accountant in this world, in this country, would want to do is to try and create a big 4. Everybody has that ambition. How do we create a large practice? How do we ensure that we fight with the best? How do we go and do a statutory audit of our listed organization? Everybody wants to do that, right? And sometimes that's a herd mentality, right? And it is still there with us today. The first thing, if you come into any conference is, you know, would I get some GST work? Would I get some income tax work? Would I get some statutory audit? If you have a bank chairman coming, half of us are already out of the conference hall. If you have a politician coming, half of us are out. Well, there's no right or wrong answer to any of those, and I don't want to stand here and talk about it, but there is no right or wrong. What I'm saying is, unfortunately, there is a herd mentality to whatever we do, and it happens a lot of time. So I finally became a chartered accountant, and I thought, for sure I don't want to do this, and fortunately for me, I decided to figure out 20 years ahead of time in terms of what is likely to come 10 years from now, which was technology, hopefully, and technology controls, and I started to put my time and energy on technology and technology controls, right? And that has today helped me to achieve one of the largest risk advisory companies in the country after the Big 4. We are 700, 800 odd people, and 400 of them are engineers working for us. And that has helped us to grow another company which is deep in cyber tech, right? And I mentor the product, which is deep in cyber tech, which is another 500 people company, which spans from Japan to US. We are number 1 in the world in Gartner Technology Quadrant. We are better than the Americans and Israelis in technology. And you'll be happy to know that we run some of the largest data centers in the world, from United Nations to London Stock Exchange to DBS Rail to SEBI to SBI to RBI. Almost 300 odd top-notch institutions in this country happen to use our cybersecurity product. So, well, that's a quick reference and a summary of all that I want to talk to you about today, because I want to take your minds away. You come to a regional conference, and in this conference, I believe that it should be more directional in nature rather than anything else. And it is important for me to put this in the right perspective. So what am I going to talk to you about today? Right? The first thing that I would love to talk to you about today is take a step back and talk about how are business models evolving in today's world. Do we even have a business model? How are they changing in the world today? And if we understand these business models, probably will understand what to do with these models a little better, right? And of course, there's always this question about what is the opportunity that we have in Jaipur, what is the opportunity that we have in a smaller place than Jaipur, and so on and so forth. Jaipur, of course, is a much larger place and a fantastic place as well. There are 4 business models which are evolving in the world today. Any chance of that going up? No, this simply goes up on the presentation here. But it's not coming up. No, I don't want the sound. Just put it up. There is no sound. Right. So what I want to talk to you about is the business models which are evolving in the world. And there are 4 business models, and please be very carefully attentive on these business models, because this is the foundation on which you would decide what kind of professional services one would like to do in the future. So there are 4 business models evolving in the world. The first business model evolving in the world is an outcome-based model. I'm not sure if you have ever encountered an outcome-based business model. Have you heard of a company called Tesla? All of us have heard. Do you know for a reason why this company is valued at $1 trillion today? Anything which comes to your mind? Sorry? Innovation, somebody says fuel, battery. Most of the time, it is not what we believe in, it is actually something else. And this company is valued at $1 trillion because it engages with you. Yes, please go ahead. And don't worry if it doesn't come up. No problem. So I'm saying the first thing that we would need to realize is, why is it valued at $1 trillion? Why is the world looking at it so differently? Why? Because the car engages with you. It is not the battery which is creating a value, maybe for some time, but those are likely to happen in large mass scale production, and they will become commodities very soon, right? So it is because the car engages with you. Why does the car engage with you? Somebody said something here, data, right? There's a huge amount of data that the car collects because the car has like 500 sensors all across the car. It collects what you want to do. Good afternoon, Rohitji. So it is this amount of data which talks about what is around your car, and it is this amount of data what you input in terms of how you want to engage with the car, right? So this is an engagement with the car which is liking people. So people don't want to buy a Ferrari because it's got a beautiful color. People want to buy a car because you want to engage with the car. Now what is the outcome? Outcome is, let me try and put it in our language. Do you do project finance here? A lot of us do project finance here. And do you do a statutory audit as well? A lot of us do statutory audit as well. The outcome of the statutory audit is more or less, not certain, but more or less available because you do it as per a standard. The output is all recorded. But the outcome of a loan that you get for people is significantly different. It is helping him to drive business. Do you get paid more for getting a loan arranged for people, or do you get paid more for statutory audit? Right? For loan, of course. When you go for an income tax, do you get money because you've saved him tax, or do you get money because you file a return for 100 rupees? You typically get 100, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. People do it free for you, right? So that's finished. You get it because there is an outcome. So please remember, professional services are going to be on the foundations of outcome more and more in the future. Everything is in the foundations of outcome. So outcome-based business models are becoming very, very interesting. What are the different business models of outcome? One, automotive, I spoke to you about. Hospitals. Even before you enter a hospital, if the doctor knows exactly what is wrong with you, would you like it or not? Would you like it or not? Now tell me, how can one do this? Anybody? Tech, maybe yes, of course. But in tech, quickly, how can one do this? Any example which comes to your mind? Constant monitoring beforehand, getting the data, health data right. You have a lot of apps which collect your health data. Let me give you a very small and simple example of a business model that people have created. There are companies in this country going and acquiring X-rays and the reports of the X-rays without your name. Are you aware about it? There are a lot of American companies collecting data in India and countries like us, which may not have had good privacy rules before. Of course, they don't take your name. They don't need your name. Your name gets converted into a number, right? but they take an X-ray and they take a report. Just imagine if there are 1,000 people and I take an X-ray and I take a report of all of that, and if there are 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 and 1 billion people in this country and 7 billion people in the world, you would statistically between 70 to 80% know for the next X-ray what is likely to be wrong with this gentleman. And just imagine if you go a little deeper in that and you take an MRI report, and all of that we do, we take a blood test report and so on and so forth. If your data goes larger, the outcome becomes better, right? So when you get into a hospital, and if the hospital has all of these records with them, then the outcome is fantastic. People would want to pay 50 lakh rupees for outcome and only 5,000 rupees for a test. Is that right or wrong? I'm again and again getting you back to the fact, and please remember this because we're trying to talk about it a little later. So I'm again and again getting back to the fact that as you keep boxing the service, as it keeps becoming a small product across the world, and as it happens in mass manufacturing, the value keeps coming down. But as you keep adding an outcome to it, the value keeps going up. And that is what is more important. If you go to a retail shop today, if you have not been there, like for example, I have not been to Shoppers Stop for like 3 years now. When I walk into Shoppers Stop, they knew what I was buying before. Would it make sense for him to give me a 50% discount on a piece of jewelry when I have never bought a jewelry? But I would have probably gone and bought a jeans 10 times from them. Would it make sense for me to get 50% discount on that because you're acquiring a customer very quickly, right? And I can go on and on throughout the day giving you a lot of these examples. Let me try and talk to you about the second business model which is evolving in the world, which is hyper-personalization. Have you heard of hyper-personalization? And believe me, this is also likely to be the story of professional services in the future. Anybody, what is hyper-personalization? Anything? When you get a customer in office, you provide a service to a customer. Over a period of number of years, you start understanding a customer. In your case, a client, right? And because you understand the customer and the client, he is now starting to talk to you about his personal problems, home problems. You know exactly what is right with him. You know his mentality very well. He wants to save tax. He's okay to pay tax, whatever, right? And without you even knowing, you're actually creating a hyper-personalized, outcome-based service to him, for which, unfortunately, we still continue to charge only 5,000 rupees. Hyper-personalization means personalizing to the most possible impact that one would have for you. There are shops in the US, Nike shops, where you can walk in. You don't like a white color shoes or a black color shoes. You're a young lad, you may want to have a blue color shoes, maybe a red color shoes, maybe a streak of green and a red in one. They would actually hyper-personalize one on the spot and give it to you. What is the value of those shoes? That value is tremendous to you, and you're willing to pay that extra $200 for that shoes, right? That's hyper-personalization. So there are again hundreds and hundreds of examples of hyper-personalization. Marketing today, targeted marketing is hyper-personalization. Have you ever tried marketing as a chartered accountant before? Have you ever tried a marketing, right? Marketing. Marketing is not allowed. You have tried marketing? All right. That's right. So whether you're in practice or not, it's not that marketing is not allowed. Fortunately, marketing is allowed, but with lot of do's and don'ts around it, right? What is the best way to market a chartered accountancy or a professional service? It is actually targeted marketing, right? So you first have to understand the person. So today people go on the LinkedIn to understand the person. You understand what the CFO is, what he likes, what he wants to do in the next 1 year, what are his goals, and then you create a proposition for him. Go back and say that this is what my strength is, this is what I do, this is the outcome that I can bring on the table. Out of 10 attempts that you make like this, 5 attempts are likely to be super successful. And the value that he's likely to give to you will be at least 3 times that you normally get. And most interestingly, the competition gets killed because he has sympathies on you because you've come to him first with the solution. Always remember the game of marketing is, do you arrive at it first? Are you able to market it well? The third business model which is evolving in the world is access versus ownership. Any idea about access versus ownership? Anybody? Sorry? Rentals? Anybody? You heard of cloud services? Right? Cloud is a fantastic example of access versus ownership. Uber is a fantastic example of access versus ownership. In Mumbai, for example, people don't want to buy houses any longer, they want to enjoy houses. How many of you have been in the same house for the last 40 years? How many in the same house for the last 40 years? I'm sure there'll be a lot of people, probably they're not raising. I've been in the same house for the last 45, 47 years, right? The kids today, they don't want to be in the same house for more than 5 years. And they want to enjoy different houses in different localities. Could be even in Jaipur, for example. So access is more important. And you know what is the cost of access of a house? Rental is just 5% compared to what you want to buy. And if you're making 14% or 11% return on your mutual fund, it is actually better to rent a house than to acquire a house. But you know what? We don't come from that generation. We want to buy a house. We want to decorate it. We want to call it our home house, right? But that's not the case with people across the world. So it's not that there is anything called right or wrong. It's everybody's preference, right? But that is what is not across the world. People like to enjoy it. So that is access. So today, you don't want to own a Microsoft Office. You want to enjoy a Microsoft Office. SaaS services Wow. How much does it cost? 24,000 rupees to buy a Microsoft Office license. 24,000 rupees. That is the cost. They used to give you a perpetual license before. Perpetual means use it till the time that you want to use it. You want support, not support, no problem. We used to use it for 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, 8 years, no problem. And of course, there were people who were not buying it also. You know what has happened today? Microsoft is slowly but steadily moving out of perpetual. I think they don't even sell a perpetual license now. You have O365. And that O365 for the first 2 or 3 years, they sold it to you for just 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Try getting a premium O365 today. It is going to cost you 20,000 rupees per annum. Per annum. What Microsoft used to collect in 7 years or 5 years from you, it is collecting per annum. Of course, it gives you features, new features which come in. Half the time, you don't even use 60% of the features. You're happy with 40% of the features, right? So interestingly, the SaaS model is helping you to grow your business literally 3 or 4 times over in terms of your revenue, whatever you do, if you're able to do this on a yearly basis. Don't worry. So that is access versus ownership. The fourth one is digitalization. Every industry in the world is going through a digital revolution. There are 3 kinds of buckets for digitalization. Bucket number 1, digital investment and assets for growth of an organization. That means you use technology to grow the organization. The second is operational efficiency and reduction cost. So you invest in tools and technology to reduce the cost of your operations. The third is create an experience for customers, clients, and so on and so forth, right? These are the 3 buckets that people are investing money in. If you go to, I just wanted to show you, there was nothing on the presentation, I just wanted to show you, if you go to the World Economic Forum report, you will see that almost every industry that you can think of, is going through a digital revolution, which means they are investing heavily in digital assets. Now, what is a digital asset? Is app a digital asset? Is just putting up an app, is that a digital asset? One of the digital assets. I think I remember coming here maybe 3 years back and speaking to you and taking a session which says auditing and accounting is a dying practice. And I was trying to bring home the fact that, you know, we are in a very different world. And I'm going to talk about it. That's my favorite subject. When I was a chairman in WRC in 14, 15, I kept talking about it and people said, we will probably never want to vote for you, but that's a different story. 5 years from now, we have that problem now facing us. So let me try and take an example. I don't know whether I took this example last time or not, but let me try an example. Have you heard of usage-based insurance? Anybody heard of usage-based insurance? Do we have that in India? What is usage-based insurance? Depend upon the kilometers, marine insurance. You know, today if you buy a Mercedes-Benz, and I'm sure a lot of you have them in Jaipur, it's a rich city, you have to pay insurance upfront. 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees, 3 lakh rupees, whatever it comes, right? The model wants you to enjoy it more, and the model wants you to consume more. That is what is happening with the American, and this is what is likely to happen with India as well, as you have younger generation coming up, right? So the usage-based insurance means only when you drive your car, you are required to pay insurance. Even toll. So, for example, why was this not possible before? Why was this not possible before? Because technology was conventional. They had to send you an invoice. They had to send you a paper to say this is what the insurance you have to pay. Today, they have the data of when you're driving and the ability to send the bill on your WhatsApp and the ability to get into your bank account and take the money off. So you know what the insurance is likely to happen? If you're driving your car today, $1. If your driver is driving the car today, maybe $2 because he does not have a good history. And if you've been to Mumbai city, there are some pin codes in the Mumbai city which are accident prone, which means if you want to go to Andheri where the road is all dug up, metro is coming up, Modi ji is likely to come up, so there's a huge crowd, you're likely to go and crash your car today. Probability is high. Not that you will do it. Probability is high. If the probability is high, I'm going to charge you $5 today. Now, that is digital investment and digital asset. What is it helping you to do? It is helping you to consume more because you're paying for the day and you're living by the day. So you don't have to pay 10 crore rupees for your house. You have to only pay maybe 1 lakh rupees to enjoy the house. You don't have to pay 3 lakh rupees for your insurance, maybe just 1 rupee every day when you drive it. Your ability to afford the car gets better. If it's a 30 lakh car, maybe by 10%. If it's a 60 lakh car, maybe by 7%. But your ability to consume the car gets better. And just imagine, this is what is happening. We do a lot of work in cyber tech, so you know, I had Vodafone Idea come to us and said, suddenly, the consumption on the SIM cards used by people is nothing. I repeat, the consumption of the data on the SIM cards used by people like you and me is nothing. They have sold SIM cards to automobile companies to generate data from them. And that is running into terabytes of data being consumed on the wire, gigs being consumed on the wire. Why? Because when the tire moves, you're sending information. When you're playing, your music system sends information. When you turn right, when you turn left, every piece of the car is sending information. Insurance is just one aspect of what I spoke to you about, right? And if it was usage-based insurance, anybody hear how an insurance company is likely to go through a change? Anybody here? Quickly. Number of accidents, well, you would have a record of that. Revenue streams, who was that? How is that changing? How is that changing? Because you used to collect 3 lakh rupees upfront, the accounting standard says you take and record insurance the time that you do it, the underwriting, the system does something else, the operations team have to do something else, and today you have just ₹1 coming in every day when you drive a car or ₹5 coming in every day when you drive a car. What is likely to change? Your consumption, the way that you taking data in, the way that you're generating an invoice for that 5 rupees, the way that it would have probably gone to an underwriting system, and the way that it gets into operation, and the way that it gets into service as well. Because by mistake, you would have sent 10 rupees instead of 1 rupee. That creates more challenge for your customer service department than even your billing department, for example. And your billing department is also stressed. So the accounting systems are likely to go through a change. Accounting systems are likely to go through a change. I don't even know if there is going to be an accounting in this world. And we will talk about it towards the end of this conversation. I'm talking about pure accounting. And it's debatable and would love to debate this, right? But we'll get to that there. So I'm saying digital investment is likely to cause a disruption in our services, a tremendous disruption in our services. And if you're not able to realize it and change, we will be suddenly faced with the fact that, yaar, aajkal practice mein maja nahi aa raha hai, right? Liability is huge, and I understand liability more than anybody else understands liability, every day in the morning from 10 to 12. Liability is huge, and you're doing it for peanuts, for nothing. So I would like to summarize this for everybody's sake: outcome-based business models, hyper-personalization, access versus ownership, and digital assets and digital investments for growth, operational efficiency, and experiential purposes. All of this is likely to create, so I would call as the next threat. If you were to put yourself on a matrix, this is likely to create the next threat for professional services and chartered accountants at large. I spoke to you that when I went to college, I probably learned the fact that skill is more important than degree, right? And I think it is time for us to now try and understand this. Most of us, no, all of us, have gone through the chartered accounting course, that the way that the course has been constructed for the last 40 years is conservatism and ethics is the foundation of the course. I repeat, conservatism and ethics is the foundation of the course. Unfortunately, it is not intent of the course, but unfortunately, our risk-taking ability has been completely diluted as chartered accountant, because we are constantly in the mode of trying to find the problem rather than solve the problem. And I'm sure you would have heard a lot of people coming here and saying solutioning should be our this thing, consulting should be our focus, all of that. But I'm saying, please understand from a psyche that you have become more conservative and your risk-taking ability is slightly lower. So what do we do in the real life? In the practice, we make money, take the money out, invest it in the stock markets, or invest it in the property markets. Hardly we would have invested it back into our professional services to be able to capture the emerging trends in the world. And that has to quickly change. Right? So for a minute now, it might be a good time to talk about how do you acquire skills more than degrees after having been a chartered accountant, maybe for 30 years, maybe for 40 years, and what do you do around them if these are likely to be the business models in the world, right? Fortunately, I learned technology by reading manuals. I learned technology by going a little deeper into technology on a daily basis, which helped me to learn cyber tech and maybe innovate. But let me talk to you about some stories that I would have collected from chartered accountants in different regions. Is reconciliation of TDS a problem? Is reconciling TDS a problem? There's a team in Nagpur which decided that they don't want to do a practice, but they caught on to one small problem. One small problem, reconciling TDS for large banks across the country. So what they did, they went and wrote a small software. Now we would think, why is that a problem? Please understand, if it is a large, complex bank like an SBI, ICICI Bank, they have branches coming in, thousands and thousands of vendors. It is always a challenge to get it right, always a challenge to get it right. So what they did, they stored a piece of code, and then they went to the bank and said, can I get you the outcome of what you want? Can I get you this report on your table? Outcome is important, right? With their technology and people, they were able to get outcome. They grew from 3 people into a 100 people company today with a 70 crore rupees turnover, and their valuation today is 700 crores. Why? Because maybe a larger online text portal wants to buy them. Because it becomes a revenue stream for the larger portal. What are these large portals? Keep losing the name. ClearText, one of those, whatever, right? These are large portals who want to buy them. Why? They identified a small problem. The problem was across the country, and they just tried to solve that problem and created technology, a small technology solution to be able to solve the problem. So what is being disruptive? They had an opportunity to identify a single problem and make that problem reach to a level of where they are valued at 700 crore rupees today. A bunch of young kids with just maybe 35 years, 39 years, chartered accountants thinking through this. This is where you keep and apply your mind of chartered accounting being an entrepreneur, if at all, being one. I wanted to go through this with you, talking about, will you see accounting in the future? Anybody here? Would you have accounting in the future? I know there are a lot of people who are going to say, absolutely, we're going to have accounting in the future. What nonsense is that? Well, I'm not saying no, I don't have the right or wrong answer, but I would still want to debate it with you. The foundation of our practice is accounting, accounting standards, then come auditing and auditing standards. So let us first take accounting. If you destroy accounting, I don't know what you audit. So let's see if it is getting destroyed or not. Let's maybe just take 5 minutes break and think through, is it likely to get destroyed, the foundation? Anybody here thinking that accounting is likely to disappear? Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there are some believers here that accounting would likely to get disappeared. Why is accounting likely to get disappeared? Software, automation. You know, first is, always when you want to think through a problem statement, I do this on a daily basis. Put the problem statement on the board, and that balance sheet looks like this. You know, 40 years back, the balance sheet used to be simpler. You know, I love cash accounting system. I hate accrual accounting system because it's got friction. You know what friction is? You know what is friction? Friction means if you're trying to put too many things and it takes too long to achieve a goal, right? Friction could be to walk into this auditorium if you had only 2 gates in the auditorium. That's friction. Ability to walk in quickly, ability to walk out quickly. The friction of what we have built in the accounting standards and systems over a period of last 40 years is resulted in a 1,000-page balance sheet which you don't understand and I don't understand, and we are expecting investors to understand that. I don't know whether you would agree with me or not. Is there anybody wanting to agree with me? I've generally come out right in the last 20 years. So is there anybody who wants to agree with me on this? That is a lot of friction. So I take a step back and I think, wow, I think accrual system was better, right? You know what you're making, you know what you're spending. Now, let us think through accounting standards. What are accounting standards? Accounting standards is a set of rules in how you have to behave and how you need to do the entry of an accounting transaction, mota, right? So there are green lights, red lights, orange lights, right? And these are denoted by standards that have evolved over a period of 40 years. You know why? Because something would have gone wrong, somebody put something would have gone wrong, somebody put something. You know, it is the way that you used to teach your kid before. Boss, यहाँ पे उठना मत, यहाँ पे बैठना मत, ये दोस्त गलत है, ये स्कूल में जाना मत, पान खाना मत, बीड़ी पीना मत, दारू पीना मत, all of those rules that we did that. Try and do that to your kid today, just not possible. Try and do that to your accounting. Let's just get it back to your accounting. How long is it likely to survive in the same shape and size that we see today? So let us take a step back and figure out, there's so much of technology revolution happening. Is it too difficult to convert your accounting standards into a piece of code? Is it too difficult? Is it too difficult? Anybody who's good at accounting standards here? Anybody who's good at accounting standards? Well, we've got chartered accountants, senior ones. Anybody who's good at accounting standards here? I hear a lot of those every day in the morning from 10 to 12 o'clock. Lot of those in the appellate tribunal. Anybody here who understands accounting standards? Well, if you understand, and I'm sure you should, because we've all been chartered accountants, it is nothing then but a simple rule of if, then, else, but. Is it right or wrong? If you go back home, I promise you, pick up the most complex accounting standard, put it in a flow chart, you will not have more than 10 or 15 variables. And let us take the most complex one, the hedging one, or the treasury for a large bank. Maybe you will have 20 variables. Other than that, you don't even have 4 variables in an accounting standard. Just 4 or 5 variables. Capital transactions, 4 bloody variables. Expense out, maybe 2 variables. If this, do this. If not, do this. Right? Why does it require us human beings to put our mind and do an accounting entry and train people in tele and get it right and get accountants, and accountants are not available, and then have auditors come and ask us question, and then have regulators come and ask us question, bhai isko ye expense mein kyun dala tumne, ye expense mein nahi, ye grouping mein kyun dala, ye grouping mein dal dena chahiye. What nonsense is that? Why are we wasting time on that? Right? So the question was not me asking you. The question is, technology has the ability to crack this in 5 minutes, right? And if you put a piece of code and inject it any of your intelligent accounting softwares, and SAP and Oracle and Tallies of the world would probably not even survive. Inject it in a intelligent software. It will take you 2 minutes to solve an algorithm and 5 minutes to get your accounting systems right and your balance sheets coming out perfectly okay. Just about 5 minutes. And as the systems are getting more connected, Modi ji would rather write your accounts, forget about your taxes, right? He would be more happy writing your accounts in your houses and say, hey, you know what, you need to put it here because I make more money as tax from this, right? So every regulator in the world, it's not just Modi ji here, every regulator in the world would want to do this, right? So if regulators want to do it, technology has the ability to do it, what are we holding on to? And you have got some very interesting personalities coming here to discuss accounting standards or whatever. And I would love to debate this. MP Vijay Kumar is a dear friend of mine, and I love to debate this with him. I said, why the hell are you even writing it in the institute when it does not matter somewhere else? Right? So anyway, I'm getting a little charged up because I believe somebody will kill it. You kill it, I kill it, but somebody will kill it because it is not too difficult to kill it. And if you do not have accounting standards, what happens to auditing? Similarly, please go back home and do a flow chart of an auditing standard. And you will realize that the auditing standard more or less mirrors your accounting standards with some more variables here and there. So if your accounting standards are getting right by the software, do you even need to audit that software? Do you even need to audit that account if the balance sheet is more or less a 5-star balance sheet coming out of the system? Maybe not. And I'm talking worse off. Would auditing become a social science? I don't know whether I've raised this question to anybody. Would auditing in the technology world become a social science? What is a social science? What's a social science? Maybe a way of life, right? In the olden ages, you did not have signals. Our great-grandfathers used to actually spit on the roads, right? And as maturity came in, even today we know we don't have to do that. Kids know automatically. You don't even have to teach them. When you see a red light anywhere in the world, what does a red light mean? Stop. What does a green light mean? Have you learnt it? More or less not. It has been calculated in you, it has been embedded in you, right? But people had to form rules before, standards before. Red light, orange, green, signals. These are standards being set by the world. They are automatically followed by you after some time. What I'm trying to say is, accounting and auditing are also standards, which means the time that you're born and if the technology keeps pace with, it will automatically do what it is supposed to do. There will not be even a single question after that. Why does it happen like this? Why do you have to expense out your expenses? It may not even have that question going forward. It will be just taken as a way of life. And it will probably, auditing will become a social science for you. Well, I see a lot of grim faces because I know you paid a lot of money for this conference. And for me to come and say here that maybe you'll not have accounting, maybe you'll not. I'm not trying to kill the practice. I'm saying fundamentally, technology has got amazing amount of threats. And of course, the opportunities are way different. Way, way different. I migrated from doing that to probably looking at technology and then maybe going a little deeper in there with cyber tech. The subject that I like today, that I do, and that's the screen that I wanted to show you, is I work on identities. And I work on security of the identities, and I work on privacy. Privacy bill is likely to be one of the big businesses for professionals, right? And that is an amazing opportunity. Maybe for a chartered accountant, because you understand what is important. You understand contextual data. Contextual data is likely to become the most important part of cybersecurity. Have anybody heard GDPR here? GDPR? These are privacy laws in Europe, right? You cannot disclose the phone number, telephone number, email address, and the address of a person or monitor that person in European Union. If you do that, you're charged millions and millions of dollars of fine, 100 millions, 200 millions, $500 million fine. And there's a huge practice around GDPR. So if you have privacy bill coming up, you're likely to have an amazing amount of practice. So what I thought, wow, I'm doing some cyber tech on access control and technology, why don't I do it for all the identities? You know how many digital identities you have in the world? Any idea? A lot of us have maybe one phone, two phones. You have 10 or 15 email addresses. Every account that you go on the internet, you register yourself. Whatever you eat, girls and guys like to put it on the Facebook, LinkedIn, right? You literally go and post it. It remains there forever for the world to see, for the world to understand what your background is, what you do, artificial tools and technologies to be able to understand what you're doing. And there are use cases around it. But you're all open in the world. It looks like, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do, it looks like that you would have a human identity, which is different, and you may have a digital identity, which is likely to be different. Currently, the human identity and the digital identities merge, right? Your identity, your digital identity is your thought, what you do, when you do, what you store, when you get up, how you behave. That has to be disassociated from you, which means you'll have an avatar in the digital world, and you can have many, and you will have security pods coming up in the digital world, which means you put the photograph there, not on the Facebook, and let Facebook take your permission to pick up the photograph from there. And a lot of things around it. So what I'm saying is, there are billions and trillions of digital identities. And if you were to extrapolate this to manufacturing 4.0, which is the last part of my discussion, a lot of chartered accountants have experience in manufacturing organizations. That is what has evolved. We did that. Unfortunately, India lost the game. I believe that India is likely to get that game back. What is likely to happen in 4.0? Anybody here? Again, amazing technology revolution. Amazing technology revolution. What is likely to happen in 4.0? Anybody? Artificial intelligence, sure. But fundamentally, what is likely to happen? Anybody? You know, automation, of course, is a key. So operational technology and IoT technologies are literally going to drive your factories. And that's happening in India. If you go to Ola, we do a lot of work for them. It is robotics completely to manufacture, which means technology is manufacturing, people are not, which means you have intelligent solutions helping you to do that. And just imagine tomorrow, and I'm saying 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. Anybody heard of Amazon? Wow, all of us have heard about Amazon. You go online, you buy something, they're all API driven. API driven means a piece of code, access it, do what you want to do, right? If you look at manufacturing 4.0, look at the revolution which is possible. Shah Rukh Khan wants to produce a Ferrari with his branded logo in his color, but will he be able to do 30,000 cars or 100,000 cars? Maybe not. But he'll be able to do maybe 100 cars. There'll be 100 fans who would want to buy it, right? And a Ferrari is costing $200,000. Maybe they want to buy it for $400,000. That is the outcome. That is the value Shah Rukh Khan adds. So Shah Rukh Khan says that, hey, 100 cars and I'm able to get maybe $300,000 for that. That is what $300,000 is like $30 million or whatever that number comes to. 300,000 multiplied by maybe 100, 200, whatever. So why not I do that? Is that possible today? Can you manufacture just 100 cars? Horrendous cost of manufacturing, right? But tomorrow, when all the factories are API enabled all across the world, from Philippines to India to Japan to US, you could have a nice portal sitting at home and you will be filtering through, I want to manufacture a car, which plant is available to me for only 2 days across the world? Or 4 hours of every plant is what I need to borrow. I want to access it. I don't want a plant. I want to access that plant, right? He will press a button. It will go and identify that, okay, in Philippines, there is a manufacturing plant which can produce maybe doors for you, maybe mirrors for you. And in China, maybe engines can be manufactured. I go through, click all the buttons, construct a car on the fly, and say, I want 100 cars to be delivered in the next 20 days, and the cars are FedExed to you. It comes on a container very quickly, delivered, and you're able to sell it. Right? This is likely to be the power of 4.0. Now, if this is likely to be the power of 4.0, just imagine the ramifications again that you might have on auditing, accounting, or whatever I may have spoken about in the last maybe 45 minutes to 1 hour. Everything again is likely to go through a change. So let us maybe take 10 more minutes, and then maybe if you have a couple of questions to open up on the floor. In all of this, is there even an opportunity for a chartered accountant to do something that he would want to do? Does it even make sense auditing a balance sheet based on some standards and waste your time trying to tick the boxes? Or does it get exciting to look at algorithms which are likely to cause larger damages? Does it get exciting to get into a small piece of code to understand, you know, what is it that this piece of code is trying to do? Is it going to be possible for all senior chartered accountants and juniors sitting here? Maybe not. And I started by saying, please don't make money and take it home. Please do reinvest it back, because it is this reinvestment which is likely to get you a younger chartered accountant who has the ability to deep dive into it. People come and ask me, do we need to learn coding? And I used to say no. But I've kind of changed my mind today. I'm saying you may need to learn coding, because if you have a 300 million database to analyze, you need to inject a piece of code. You can't do it on Excel sheet. You can't do it on any of the platforms that you have today. You have to learn that small piece of code because your 4-year-old son is learning it. So you should be able to inject into it. And that would give you a result which will help you to create an outcome, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is that while what would happen to accounting and auditing would happen, but that doesn't mean that we are out of our profession fundamentally. We are only changing the track our profession and creating or learning or upskilling ourselves to ensure that we get into the business models first, understand the business models, and figure out a way to audit those business models and algorithms and a piece of code to figure out how do you create an outcome in this very dynamic technology world, which is changing on a daily basis. By the time I walk out of this room, everything that I have said would have probably changed. And to wrap this up, I had a conversation with a colleague in the morning as to what does he do, and he said, there's a lot of search cases happening in Jaipur nowadays. Is that true? Maybe some places. So have you heard of ChatGPT? Right? It's been very spoken about today. I just went in and clicked. Unfortunately, my iPad is down. You may want to do it yourselves. I just went in and wrote a question, said, can I hide information? How to hide information during a search in India? How to hide information during a search in India? Of course, the first statement is, it is not legal to do this in India. You could be prosecuted. However, if there is information which can have client connotations, and in any way, if it is possible for you to create confidentiality around it, it is possible for you to go to the court and get an injunction to ensure that you don't give out this information. But please don't hide information is the last line. Beautifully written. Beautifully written. It's not available on the internet if you do like this. It is collected from various places, and then it is shown like this. And I said, can I, as a chartered accountant, creating a marketing plan for myself? Then I asked the question, interesting, is marketing allowed for chartered accountants in India? Right? It said, yes, marketing is allowed, blah, 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 but You cannot do that on television. You have to follow the ethic rules, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of that neatly put up to you. So today, you don't even have to go and talk to anybody if you want to create a social media plan. Just go and write, I'm a chartered accountant. I want you to help me create a social media plan. Boom, the plan comes up in front of you. And just imagine if this technology is already there, so you put it in a robo. Last time, I think I would have probably shown you. 4 years back, I showed you a robo talking to me in a very conversational language here in this auditorium, right? Why? It is only becoming better. So finally, competition is not with your colleague sitting next to you. Competition is with a very different world. Competition is not even with a very different world. Competition is a very different fundamentals. Very different fundamentals. So I can only urge you, ladies and gentlemen, to think beyond imagination and rise above the ordinary, because I think as chartered accountants, the one thing that the Institute has taught us very well. What's that? What is that? The one thing that the Institute has taught us very well in our chartered accounting course, what is that? Patience. Patience, right? And that we have. Ability to digest lots and answer only this much in an exam, right? We have that. Why don't we convert that into a fact that we are good at understanding logically, able to dissect it logically, and able to use it very well with all of this which is happening in the world today. So I have still maybe around 10 odd more minutes. So if there are any questions, I love engaging and talking to people because this seems to be a monologue, and I could probably talk for hours here. And maybe by the time I finish, I would have destroyed the complete practice that anybody thinks that we have. It used to be my job as a leader. I'm of course not an elected Central Council member any longer, but it is important that we get this right directionally. So any questions that you would have, love to respond to them. Cryptocurrency is a fantastic, I mean, you know, the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, I did not have too much of my mind attached to it because they were currencies without any due assets below them, but still they're doing very well for whatever reasons, again, beyond the imagination that I have. Somebody else has maybe better imagination, of course, but digital currencies are going to be amazing. You know, I probably would have said last time, you will not see banks in the future because banks have become infrastructure companies. They have a license, they maintain the CASA, but the business of the banks are run better by fintech companies. You have small banks come up, AU Bank, for example. They are meaner, faster, lighter, and they want to have and ingest technology, and they're able to do it faster. Why? Because SBI is a Titanic, ICICI Bank is a Titanic, not that they can't do it. But for them to do it, takes them 10 years to do it. For me to start a bank today and say, what's to lose? Let me go and hit it off very well. Digital currency, incidentally, so you had payment systems take over the entire payments of the bank, and the fee income that the bank used to make is completely lost. Now, when you have digital currencies, just imagine, you don't even have to send it on a wire. It's a ledger, you just turn around the digital currency. The debit and the credit happens there. The payment is instantly, right? There is no transaction cost involved. So the cost is likely to come down. Is this likely to happen? I think it is likely to happen. You would need to understand digital currencies very well. And this again, I go back to my discussion again and again about accounting and auditing. This again is likely to change the way that we do what we do, unfortunately. So your understanding of digital currency would become a necessity for all of you. Again, fantastic opportunity. You can run smart contracts around it. You can run transactions around it. You can run op shops around it. You can run a fintech company around it. You can think of a process around it. Always remember, technology is just one part of it. It is people, process, and technology. And that people process is us as chartered accountants. So again, cryptocurrencies and digital currencies is a fantastic opportunity. Yes, please. What are the possible ways to upskill yourself? If your question is, what is the possible ways of upskilling yourself to find a problem, to find a solution if there is a problem? Sure. Fantastic question. So I'm saying, here is one who wants to figure out if this is likely to happen in 5 years from now. What do I do to either be part of the problem, get destroyed, try and find a solution, or try and beat the problem or kill the problem, right? I would encourage you to start by killing the problem. If you think that there is a problem, likely to be a problem, then innovation always starts with a problem statement. And this problem is not only in Jaipur, India, Mumbai, Delhi, India, it is across the world, which means the opportunity is across the world, right? If you were to take a leading position and go and figure out and say, hey, you know what? I understand accounting and auditing standards. Let me try and see if I can ask one of the technology guys to write a piece of code. Let me try and see if I can convert the standard into an electronic standard. If you start thinking in this manner, it is not that you're going to be the first one in the world, but you will be the first 1,000th person in the world trying to solve through a solution, right? So your step is forward. And when the time comes, you will be right ahead in the curve. So when I started practice, I was the lowest possible guy in the world starting a practice. Nobody wants to give a young guy statutory audits of a listed organization. Forget about statutory audits. They don't even let you get into a bank, right? They don't even want to give you a concurrent audit. Forget about anything else, right? But I said, let me try and do something which might happen 4 years from now, which means 4 years from now, I was in the top 10, for example, in trying to do that practice, right? So what I'm trying to say in a very, short of the long story is, try and kill the problem. Try and be the killer yourself. That is an interesting piece to do. If not, try and figure out and stay ahead of the curve to understand what is likely to be the solution. Is accounting solution likely to change? Work for a company which is working on a new gen accounting system. Don't go and work for SAP, even if you get 1 lakh rupees per annum. So if you have people working here, don't go and work for Oracle in an ERP solution. Don't go and work for Tally in an ERP solution. It's not going to help you. That thought process is not going to help you. Go and work for a new age accounting solution company, right? That could be one of the opportunities. And so forth. And happy to keep digging deep into it. Anybody else? Algo trading is fantastic. I mean, I look at it from a risk perspective. There are a lot of people who come to me, and I think, you have Sandeep, my friend, who will talk about frauds and forensic, and he'll hit about all of this that I have said in some or the other way, because, he goes a little deeper to try and find out what is going wrong, which itself is a great opportunity. So algo trading is probably running the world, right? And just imagine now the fraud possibility for a minute. If there are 6 algo trading companies across the world who try and connive together, 6, 7 of them, the large ones try and connive together and try and create technology signals at the right time, wrong time, it might have a very different result than what is actually expected of that result, right? Amazing. How do you even stop it? What do you do about it? What does a regulator do about it? What does a SEBI do about it? SEC do about it, right? Now, if you were given the task of looking at an algo, we are required to actually go and audit an algo. The algo has to work as per a standard, a new standard. That could be an amazing auditing opportunity for you. If you look at auditing in the true sense of auditing, open up the algo, look at the business rules of the algo, forget the code. Then get somebody in and figure out the code as well, because when you look at the business rule, it will be right. But maybe at 11 o'clock, 10 minutes, the rule would go wrong because somebody in the code has planted that it should go wrong. So again, ability to build algos because you understand the process and technology a little bit, ability to crack through the algo, ability to do fraud and forensic around the algo, and ability to do consulting around the algo. I would want to suggest that you should rather be doing that rather than maybe filing a 100 rupee income tax return for somebody. Anybody else? So every technology has some use cases, right? Blockchain, fundamentally what it does is it ensures that what you have written there stays there with a lot of proof around it in very simple English, right? Property records, if you put it in a blockchain, it will not let it change, which means somebody will not be able to do a fraud and take away your property. In the earlier period, people used to make you sign some documents, take away your property, blah, blah, blah. It's not possible today if you do that. But the interesting use of the blockchain, of course, is likely to be around smart contracts for treasury. But 10 years from now, just like the India has an open stack in technology, GSTN has become one. NSDL and all of that, your shares are sitting at one place. Your DMATs are sitting at one place. Is it possible for a country-wide ledger sitting at one place? Because Modi ji doesn't want you to do right or wrong. He doesn't even want you to delete. The new regulation in the technology world is, SEBI is saying that your accounting solution should not let you take away a transaction. It should have an audit trail. अगर आपने delete किया है, it should always be reversed. It should not be deleted. It should always be reversed. So there is no way that you can play around with it now. Now somebody wants to even control that. So what a country like India could actually leapfrog a generation is put up a centralized ledger of blockchain and tell all of you guys, come on, come and do accounting there, and let it be a code-based accounting, and the balance sheet will be produced by the blockchain technology and the solution. And I come back to my first question, will you even have accounting and auditing left? So let me take away accounting and auditing. It is too dear to our heart. Is it possible to do this with blockchain? Of course it's possible to do this with blockchain. Anybody else? So I think there are a lot of solutions in the world. If you do a simple Google around new age accounting solutions, these new age accounting, tell me something, is debit credit very difficult? Is debit credit very difficult? SAP has created a $100 billion company just doing debits and credits. You know, Intuit करके एक company है, QuickBooks, सुना है आपने? सबने सुना है. उसका valuation क्या है? Any idea? I'm not sure about the current one, but they are valued at $150–170 billion, roughly. That is all the value of all the Tata Group companies put together. Simple accounting solution. Why are they valued at so much? Not because they have constructed an SAP-like solution, because they have a lot of small solutions for small and medium enterprises, invoicing, reconciliation, all of that. So now just imagine, the future of the accounting solution will be a canvas, an engine. It will just do a debit and credit. But on the top, the solutions will be created like people like you and me. It could be GST, it could be TDS reconciliation, it could be an invoicing, it could be sending a piece of code and an invoice. Today, your invoice is digital invoice, but not completely digital invoice. Tomorrow, it will be completely digital invoice. So the new accounting solutions of the world are creating these small niche services around a canvas. And they are much faster, they are much agile, and they are able to create a rule of taxation for all countries across the world with if then else but. If you ask the rule to be injected in SAP, it will take you 2 years to create the taxation rule. You know, in the Institute of Chartered Accountants, last 2 years we have been implementing an ERP solution called Oracle. I started it when I just moved out of it. It is in progress, hopefully should finish in the next 6 months. The biggest challenge that we had was trying to get the taxation element right in that software for the Institute. That has taken us 2 years. If after paying, forget about the Institute, if after paying so much money, if the accounting solutions are going to take you 5 years to get it implemented with maybe 10, 20, 30 crore of rupees, that just doesn't make sense in this world. It made sense 5 years back. Today, people want it now. They want to go online now, right? So believe me, the solutions have to crack. There is no other way to this. So do Google to Zero, Z-E-R-O, for example. It's an Australian-based company. Interesting company. Anybody else? Well, I'm not saying that Tele will not do it, by the way. I'm not saying that SAP will not do it. What I'm trying to say is they are titanic. For them to move is going to take them a lot of years. Somebody else is going to move faster. Yes, sorry. Saying, look, unfortunately, investment has always been a challenge. And I'm repeating myself with that. The only mantra that I did, right or wrong, I don't know, every year I used to make money and invest it back in the firm. Because in India, mom and dad give you khana, right? So घर पे जाके खाना तो मिल ही जाता था, right? We don't need money at home. So the only thing that I did was that every year, whatever you make, hire new set of people, keep them free. रोज उनको बोलते थे शाम को यार आके, वो रोज शाम को आके खड़े हो जाते थे, सर कुछ काम करने को नहीं है. You are forced to get them work, not do the work. You're forced to get them work, which means I will give one POC means proof of concept. यार एक काम कर ये करके लेके आ, एक काम कर GDPR नया आया, standard लिख के लेके आ. Telecommunication का standard था, meeting and billing standards. We are the ones to have done this for the country in India. I said, why don't you go and do some research and do telecom standards? When we wrote the standards, we liked it, and we gave it to TRI, and the TRI promoted it as a consulting paper. So I'm saying, simple story है, कोई difficult नहीं है, like in any other business. Please start treating this as a, I don't like to call it as a business, but please start dealing with this as a profession where you need to think through like a business. May not be really a business, but maybe in future it might be that as well. So I think that's one way to do it, because for you to be able to understand technology at this point in time, is going to take you time. You don't want to spend time there. But you have network, you have connections, you're able to take a young guy with his hand and get him into a company and say, this is the guy and we are trying to do this. Very simple for you, which others don't have. And that is how the large firms do, right? The chairman of any big four, what does he do? What does he do? And Sandeep is a good guy to explain that to you because he comes from one of them. But what does he do? The only job that he does is personal relationship management and client management, and goes and just creates a network and goes to parties in the evening, I'm sure, maybe more or less, but talk to people, conversation, right? And that should then get back into what you have. So I think that's the only way to do it. But if you're able to get a good, hungry guy willing to invest in technology, I think you should try and do that. Because you might create an enterprise which you can't even think through or imagine. The valuations that we carry as a cybersecurity product is an amazing valuation. It is amazing valuation. They go in $500 million. So it's an amazing valuation, which you will never get in practice, right? So try and create a winner. Try and create a winner. All right, one last question. Yep. No, well, there are a lot of things. Security itself is a practice, right? Security itself is a practice. So it's not that you can just go on a solution and quickly figure out what is the security level, if I'm giving a data, what is likely to happen. I think my suggestion would be take help of one of your security friends to be able to run a vulnerability assessment test, to be able to understand ये data store किधर करता है, India में करता है, बाहर करता है, to be able to understand ये data कितना important है अगर आप इसको दे रहे हो. And ऐसा नहीं है कि आप डेटा नहीं दे सकते हो. अगर आपको एनालिटिक्स करना है आज, आपका एक बहुत बड़ा क्लाइंट है, अगर आपको एनालिटिक्स करना है आज, तो आप क्या करोगे? एक्सेल यूज़ करोगे. बट आपके पास में अपॉर्चुनिटी है, सॉल्यूशंस है बहुत सारे वर्ल्ड में यूज़ करने के लिए. बट अगर आप क्लाइंट का डेटा वो सोल्यूशन में डाल देते हो तो आपको रिस्क है कि यार मेरा क्लाइंट का डेटा है, मतलब 10 लाख रिकॉर्ड है, कुछ गलत तो नहीं हो जाएगा. करेक्ट? सो आई एम सेइंग do pseudonymization, which means change key aspects of the data. Instead of a number, instead of a name, convert it. See, these logics are something that we should build. So instead of the name, convert it into a garbled name, which only you can understand. So there is a relationship. Instead of his address, but if address is what you want to do analytics, leave it where it is. Instead of a telephone number, convert it into a garbled space. It can look like a telephone number, but it will be a different number. So Anil Bhandari coming 4 times, maybe say XYZ, and my telephone number coming 4 times will be a changed telephone number, but the same number 4 times. Now, if you put this data, the result of the analytics, what you get is more or less the same, right? So try and consume that output better. So you just have to be a little smarter in what you give and what you get out. Make sure that you don't put your client data because it goes in the dark web. And if somebody takes it out from the dark web and puts it on the Google, your practice is destroyed today, right? So you will have to find out a smart way to do it. And security, you may want to hire, if it is a sensitive issue, like if you're collecting सबके reports, collecting data, X-rays, it's important. Make sure that you secure this and keep it well. Ransomware is becoming a big impact item for everybody today in the country, everybody. So you have to protect yourself. You have to invest in security tools. Don't have a choice. I think there was a thought last year that we will build tools and technologies to be given to chartered accountants to use it. I don't know where this has gone, but this is definitely on the minds of the institute. As you see younger generation come in the institute, I think this is, and Prakashji is one great supporter of technology in the institute. I've seen him shout at the top of his voice for everything that we did in the institute, from digital learning hub to, आपका वो software चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है आपका? SSP चल रहा है क्या? चल रहा है? तो SSP पहले 6 महीने हमको बहुत गाली मिल रही थी, and unfortunately I was the one who started do it. Manuji was helping us to do it. We were all becoming a team. 6 महीना बहुत गालियाँ मिली. But today registering an articleship is like how many minutes? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes. वो 5 और 2 मिनट भी इसके लिए पता है आपको, क्योंकि वो इंस्टीट्यूट में कोई बंदा है उसको क्लिक करना पसंद है, हमारे को नहीं, इंस्टीट्यूट वाले को. तो वो टाइम आएगा जब वो क्लिक करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, वो आपका 1 सेकंड में हो जाएगा. So these are processes, right? So yes, I must only tell you that we had a grand desire, phase 1 and phase 2 of the technology since you asked me, phase 1 and phase 2 of the technology transformation in the institute was get a learning hub. Today, the learning hub that the institute has, I can promise you is 10 times better than any learning hub of any institute in the world. Please write it down in capital letters, and I stand tall here. You look at CPA Institute, you look at England and Wales, you look at anybody, it is better than them, right? If you look at our SSB portal, it is a fantastic job in spite of the fact that we have a very complex regulation, if then else but, right? Then now what we are doing is ensuring that we go all the way to the sub-ledger for students and for yourself. आज लोग आप लोग कंप्लेंट करते हो हमको जीएसटी का बिल नहीं आता है हमको 500 रुपये वापस रिफंड लेना है ये कोर्स के लिए लेना है स्टूडेंट्स हैव अ प्रॉब्लम when we finally finish our ERP solution it will be all the way sub ledger to a student that means we can publish 10 years ledger to you and give it to you right so every money comes in goes straight to your sub ledger account so it's a fantastic transformation of the institute which has not happened in the last 40 years so now what is left is can we create tools and technologies or integrate with tools and technology companies to offer you platforms free of cost, open source for you to do something? I'm sure that should be the second level of revolution that we should do in the institute, which should come up very quickly. You have to vote for good people for that. All right, so I think we are very close to running out of time. So I must say thank you once again, a fantastic audience. It's always a pleasure coming to Jaipur and, being attentive audience is very interesting and loved your questions and hope to engage with you sooner than later. Thank you.
फ्रेंड्स जो पूरा एसएपी पोर्टल जो 2019 में हुआ उसका सारा काम अनिल जी ने किया और ये अभी भी बहुत एक्टिवली इन्वॉल्व है ये बहुत स्ट्रांगली पिछले 3 साल से इंस्टीट्यूट में बोल रहे हैं कि इवन जब आपके इलेक्शन होते हैं वो वोट कास्ट करने के लिए भी उसी हमारे मेंबर को जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़नी चाहिए वो अपने मोबाइल से करना चाहिए उसका उन्होंने पूरा सिस्टम भी डेवलप करके दिया हुआ है कुछ रेजिस्टेंस है बट अभी हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में भी नहीं है लेकिन उसके बाद भी हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में बहुत अपना टाइम दे रहे हैं बहुत सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं वी आर रियली थैंकफुल टू हिम
Wow, that was envisioning. I thank all the dignitaries on the stage.
With this, we conclude our second technical session with their motivation to grab the opportunities of growth by using tech, of reducing cost by using tech, and creating an experience by using tech.
Now it's time for delicious lunch. The next technical session will start sharp at 2:30 p.m. We request the delegates to adhere by the timeline.
See you after an appetizing meal. Thank you all.